Okay. All right, I think we are at exactly 12 and I tried to be time conscious. So I think we're gonna get started. So welcome everyone. Thank you guys, gentlemen, for joining this discussion today. For everyone who's watching, my name is Shion Akinlastatu and you are watching on my YouTube channel called Shion On Demand. This channel is to discuss each and every issue from social to relationships to politics to travel, whatever it is that's that's hot and happening at that time. We discuss that on this channel here. So today, based on what is going on today, everyone knows the recent happenings. The most recent. My name is Shion Akinlastatu, and you are. Sorry, the most recent senseless killing in America today, which is that of George Floyd in Minneapolis. And I felt that it was necessary for us to have this discussion from a perspective of, immigrant parents. Everyone here on this panel was either raised or had a good portion of their childhood in Nigeria, raised by, Nigerian parents. And this is not just targeted at Nigerians, this is just, generally immigrants in general. So what we're trying to talk about is what it means and, how our experiences are today raising Black sons in America. And given how we all know, I think it's clear to everybody that these killings are not going to stop anytime soon. I want to believe that it's still going to keep happening. And God forbid, come November, the same person is voted in again. It probably would even get worse at this point, right? So we know it's probably not going to stop anytime soon, although we want to keep pushing all of the reforms that we can to ensure that they do reduce to a great extent or eventually stop. But in the meantime, while we have some people pushing that change, what are we doing and what can we do to ensure that our children do not end up being a statistic like this? And we're going to tackle this from different angles. One of the angles would come in from the cultural norms and that we grew up with, and that our parents raised us with, and how that affects us today, how that shaped us into the people that we are. And if we are, incorporating that into how we are raising our children today, and if we do think that those methods can be effective in any way. So I'm going to start off by introducing everybody who's here today, for those that are joining, so that you're aware. To my left on YouTube, sorry, on my right on YouTube, I have Yinka Davids. Yinka is a father of three, a beautiful little girl and two young boys. He's one of our community activists here in the DMV area, very, very passionate about family, very passionate about sports, very passionate about politics. And I felt he would be a very good addition to this discussion. Would like to hear what things from his own perspective. And to the further right of him is Tai Akimbani. Tai is the CEO of Afrobeat Live. It's an online streaming radio station targeted at African music. And Tai is also one of our very, very good and popular community champions here in the DMV. He's a father of two boys who are also, walking up the path to fame. They're superstar soccer players at this point. So I can imagine also how he feels, putting all the effort and work into raising these two young men, only for them to have to step outside of their house to face things like this. And bottom right below me, I have Daniel Ojo as well. Daniel also is one of our forefront family men in the DMV area, also a father, also very passionate about family, passionate about what happens to our immigrant community here and our children. And to the right of him is Timmy Billow, that's Big Timmy. Big Timmy is the CEO of Media Panache. It's a global PR consultant firm in Nigeria. They make big waves. They are behind it's the group behind most of the events that you see in Nigeria happening, all those 30 December shows, Alibaba Live, all of those shows. Timmy's film does the PR for that. And he recently relocated to the United States and is, intending to raise his family here. So he's going to be joining, he's here, he's going to talk about, his perspective, comparing, being raised in Nigeria recently and also in America, and firsthand witnessing all of this, racism, quote unquote, that we've, people in Nigeria technically do see on TV or hear about, but now he's here experiencing it. And we want to know his perspective on raising a family here, given everything that's been happening lately, how interested is he in raising a family still in America. And last but not the least, I have with us Jay Olaoye. Jay is a senior manager with Media medical affairs. He's in IT, also a family man, has children, has a son as well. And, he's one of our quieter people in the group, but we hope to hear him speak. And I can imagine that nobody is quiet at this time. Nobody can be silent and quiet, because once you turn on the news and you're hearing all of these discussions about what's happening with George Floyd, what happened with Ahmaud, what happened with Breonna Taylor, I can imagine that no one is silent. Everyone has one or two things to say. And so I'm very excited to have everyone here today to just discuss this. And for all of our viewers, I want to just put this disclaimer out there that I understand that we are all enraged. I know everyone is angry. I know everyone is emotional about what is going on around us, and rightly so. And I also want to mention that this is a discussion, as we said. There's no subject matter expert, to tell us how to deal with this. I don't think anyone in the world can really tell anyone how to channel their emotions about, what's happening. We're all adults. So we're going to have a discussion, talk about this, and we're also going to be civil while we're at it as well. I'll also be looking at the comment sections. If you have questions, just throw it in the comment sections right there. And towards the end of the show, we might put up a Zoom phone number for people to call in and ask questions or be a direct participant in this discussion. So my first question, I'm going to throw this to Ty to open us up here. You're a father of two sons. We see you doing a lot with your children in terms of raising, very, great young men. You're putting in the work as a father. And then you hear about this senseless killings happening left, right, and center. What are your thoughts exactly? How does this affect you as a father? And, does this scare you by any chance? Do you question the things that you're doing? Do you even question the environment in which you're raising your children? Environment meaning the country that we are in. Do you sometimes think all of this work and, that I'm doing, making sure that my children end up having a great life, could be undone by one senseless move by, a trigger happy person? What are your immediate thoughts as a father with all that's happening?
Well, thank you for having us, and thank you so much for putting this together. I think it's a great platform, and I want to, say hello to all the gentlemen that are here. Again, to answer your question, no, I don't question raising my kids in America. The other alternative is to raise the kids in Nigeria. Long time ago, before I had kids, I remember my wife and I talking about, what? Maybe I remember being staunch and say, maybe I should send the kids to Nigeria to go to boarding school at some point. This is before they were born. And after they were born, my older son, Matai, who's now 13, actually spent 6 months in Nigeria with my in-laws from age 6 months to like about a year. Because at that time is a good time to kind of fill it out, to see how it is. But when it came back, my mentality, seeing what's going on in Nigeria, changed my mind completely. I'm like, you know what? I got to put in the work, and I think as they grow up, I have a 13 and a 10-year-old. You have to put in the work for most parents. You have to put in the work. You have to be around them. You have to be around your kids, either boys or girls. And I think that's one thing that's lacking in the African communities here in America, because most of us are busy trying to provide. I have friends that send their kids to private school. If we chose to send our kids to private school, we can make it work financially. But just because you work 2-3 jobs to send your kids to private school doesn't mean it's the teacher's job to raise your kids. Ultimately, it's your kids. And like you said, my kids play soccer, right? So we travel. My oldest son plays on the academy system. This United Academy is also on the radar for U.S. soccer. So that put us on the road a lot, meaning we travel. We go to New York. Right before this whole pandemic, my son was in Utah playing in Adidas, tournament. We go to Atlanta, we drive to North Carolina. So all this time that we spend on the road, soccer give us time for us to actually bond as a family, give us time to be together. And when we are home, we spend a lot of time together also, because we have one thing in common in my family now, is sports. Like, we just watch The Last Dance together, so every episode of 10 series, every Sunday I record it. And then at a Sunday night or Monday night, we watch it. And we talk about it. We talk about everything from girls to Racism, this doesn't scare me. I think I got scared when the kid from Florida got shot over
Yeah.
a bag of Skittles. I can't remember his name right now. Trayvon Martin.
Yes.
That was the wake up call for me. That was the beginning of the wake up call for me to start having conversation with my kids about racism, about hate, about them being black, the traits that we get naturally from being black, and the hate that comes with being black, and them wanting to be in a profession that is going to expose them to different environment. My older son wants to be an athlete, period. Right. So we start having this conversation. Since Trayvon Martin's death, I can't sit back and not talk about it with them. You know, again, I don't want to keep going on and on, but no, I'm not scared to raise my kids in this environment, knowing the factors that can happen. I live in a black county. I live in Prince George's County. Prince George's County is the wealthiest black county ever. And my wife has had a conversation that no matter how much money we make, I'm not moving out of a black county. You know, I've been here since '92. I've been stopped by police so many times.
Wow.
I've never had issue with them.
Wow.
And it's not necessarily doing the wrong thing, but I happen to drive a little bit faster than most people. You know, so when I get stopped, I, I don't have problem. Now, if I go to Virginia, I've been stopped and it's like, almost kind of getting out of hand. So again, is having that conversation with them. As a parent, we can't be scared to have those conversations with our kids.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ty. So, Yinka, what do you think? What are your thoughts as well?
Thank you, Sean, for having us. This is a very, very important topic of discussion, and I'm really thankful for the opportunity to be part of this. Like Ty said, I've been friends with Ty for the very long time. I've known Ty for as long as I've known you, Sean. And one of the things that we have going for us is the fact that we love sport. Sport is one of the avenues that some of the friends that I have that we all roll together, we use as a means of bonding with our family. And that kind of help prevent our kids. I have an 8-year-old and a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old, a girl, the last one, a girl. And one of the things I've realized is that when you bond with your children, it eliminates the need for them to want to go out there on the street. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to put a disclaimer out there. Most of the things I'm going to say here personally, it's not all in all. It's not, there are exemptions out there. There are exceptions out there, and I don't want to take it as a gospel truth, but I'm only talking from my own perspective, things that work for me. Okay. So about 4 years ago, I had an experience with my son, my 8-year-old. He wanted to go out, and I said, okay, let's go out. We went out for like 4 hours. After the 4th hour, he became so agitated. He wanted to go back home and stuff like that. So we left the location where we were. We came home. The moment we opened the front door and we got into the house, my son was like, oh, thank God. Oh, I missed you. I'm like, this is the same boy that wanted to go out. So the message for me at that point was that as parents, we have to create an environment for our children whereby they want to stay home for most part and reduce the amount of time they spend out there, And the reason I'm saying this is because a lot of times we parents, we forget about the fact that raising our kids are our primary responsibility, just like Taye said. A lot of times we've given the responsibility to the school system, some to church, some to family members, some to nannies and stuff like that, forgetting the fact that when we raise our kids, we can go to bed at night with both eyes closed. I wrote something on my Facebook during Mother's Day, and a lot of people can relate to it. I had one of the toughest childhood, considering the fact that my mom was a teacher, my dad was a civil servant. 10 hours out of 24 hours in a day, I'm interfacing with at least one of them on a regular basis. It was mean. I never liked it. I consider it as child abuse at some point. I mean, not to talk about the house whooping and stuff like that. But the lesson I got from that was the fact that when I'm raising my kids, fast forwarding to me being married and start raising kids now, and I realized that all of those things were the things that kept me in check back then, though they did it the wrong way, which we consider abuse these days. So for some of us, we fine-tuned it right now, and we're using the same principle that I mean, I'll talk personally for myself, the same principle that my parents used in raising me. I'm using something similar, but in a more refined manner, whereby you are able to raise your kids in a disciplined manner, and at the same time, you're loving them at the same time. So the love aspect of it is what kept them in check. That, you know what, this dad, this mom that is telling me not to go here or not to do this, but at the same time showing me love, there must be something about it. I better listen. So considering the things that are going on out here in America, and I will conclude by saying that the time we dedicate into raising our kids is the most important time we could ever spend with them. So as parents, I'm just going to give you this advice. You got to just create that time to bond with your kids. Because at the end of the day, that's what they're going to remember when they're out there. That if my dad catch me doing such and such, if my dad catches me at the street corner, what would he say? And that is one of the things that made someone like me survived up till today. And I hope that a lot of parents listening to this are going to just realize that you got to just make that time for your kids.
So it's funny that you brought up that analogy where, what would your kids say? Your kids thinking, oh, if my dad should catch me at the corner or something, what would he do? We're gonna come to that in a second. There's a topic around that. Daniel, what are your thoughts about this? Or how are you feeling right now? Raising your sons. I don't know how many sons you have, but how do you feel right now as a parent and with everything that's going on? What are your immediate feelings?
Right. So I'm a dad of a 10-year-old boy. And obviously at this stage and age, he's been asking questions. Obviously, he's seen the videos. I mean, most kids now can literally jump on meetings and jump on videos on YouTube. So they've seen what's going on in America. One of the things my kids usually ask me is like, Dad, why is he so wrong? Why is these police that are supposed to be protecting us are the ones killing these people? Or, did he do anything wrong? Like, I mean, in his mind, it's more like, well, if he's done something wrong, then he should go to jail. But when they start seeing evidences of not, of the kind of wrongs that these kids are going through and then they're being killed, it obviously raises a lot of questions.
Yes.
For me, I've just been really, really, engaged in just having conversations with them. Like, listen, it's not, is this world perfect? It's not perfect. Yeah. Just letting them understand, as to, why there's so much ignorance out there, why people think in this way, why people feel like they're less privileged than other people. Obviously, it does help raising my kids in America as it is right now. Like what Taya said, I'm in PG County as well. PG County is more diverse. So the kids don't necessarily gravitate towards the hate that other people in the less privileged counties does. I mean, they see things like it's normal. I mean, they're not, experiencing the hate as much because they see other people that they can relate to, sort of. But my biggest thing is I've been having a lot of, dialogues with my kids, letting them understand as to why things are the same. It's explaining why people have different opinions about race is a difficult topic to have with kids. It's something that has to be, engaged in. My kid sees it. He goes to a more predominantly white school, and he's experienced, some kind of hate himself, and he comes on like, well, I don't like how this teacher talked to me about this and that. And, I mean, you just have to keep engaging in these kids and talk to them as to, why things are certain ways. I do have a Caucasian neighbor. I tend to interact with their kids as well and have my kids engage just to have, a different perspective as to what it is to be different. Yeah.
Awesome. Great. And Jay, what do you think? What are your thoughts? about this. How are you handling this with Ethan, and how are you handling this being a dad? I think that so I think for Jay, I know that I'm not sure if this is still the case. I know that you used to travel a lot, for work. And so that, being away for work, and you have to do what you have to do to provide. Unfortunately, sometimes we don't have, it's out of our hands. And I know I can see a lot of comments in the comments section, and people are talking about the whole, being there and spending time with your kids and everything. I know especially a lot of people that are in the medical field, nurses and doctors who tend to work long hours, maybe pulling double shifts and everything. I know some of them might not have that privilege to spend as much time as some of us, maybe who are entrepreneurs or work for ourselves or just work the regular, 9 to 5 might do. But nonetheless, we have to still create that time. I know some people are edgy and like, oh yeah, this and all that. So we're going to get to that. But so for someone like Jen, I like this perspective, who you're on the road a lot, you're traveling, and you've built a career. This is your career, this is what you do. And I want to believe that you love what you do, otherwise you will not be in it, for years. How has this, are you having that time to spend with your son as much as you would like to be able to, to have that bonding, that relationship, that talking that, Ty has mentioned, Daniel has mentioned, and Yinka has mentioned, that I think they've all emphasized that, there's that relationship building that is very key. You need to have that, be able to have those conversations and spend the time, put in the work, being the career that you have. How have you been able to handle this? And what are the other ways that you've been able to connect with your son, given, your career?
Okay, first off, thank you for having this platform for us to discuss this topic today. With me, I would say like you said, I do a lot of travel, and I'm not always around, but the little time I'm around our home, I started having those discussions with him. And also, my son is 9, actually is going to be 10 in the next couple of days. You'll be surprised what they really know. They know a whole lot. And when they start throwing questions to you, like the other day, he was talking to his younger sister, and they were talking about the younger sister was talking about, okay, why did he cop? Regarding this George Floyd incident, why was he so mean? And what he just said was because he's racist. And and that's the reason, no, and I said, but the younger sister was but cops are supposed to protect. And and the way he was, I kept listening to your conversation, and he was one literally explaining stuff to the younger sister. Yeah. That they have good cops, they have bad cops. And this cop was bad. He wasn't supposed to do that, and I asked him, I was how you know all this? You were oh, he's been watching YouTube. There's a famous YouTuber, he watches and they discuss and talk about all that. I was wow, that's quite interesting. And in building a bond, with my son there in America, we all know, we all grew up in Nigeria. And I believe cultural, instilling cultural value, is one of the best practices, for me, influencing, my kids here in America, letting them know, even if you ask them, where you from, though was born and raised there, would tell you it's Nigerian, because I've always instilled that in him. I'll let him know, even where we're from, in the way I grew up, that's the way we were taught. Our parents, sometimes, I came here when I was a teenager, and I still remember being here in America as a 17-year-old kid, and just free from no parents, and I do stuff by myself. But still, at the back of my head, I still remember the core values that was instilled in me right before I left home to relocate over here to America. And the same thing I'm doing with my kids right now. I let them know, these words, they have good people and they have bad people, and growing up, thinking right now, looking at him, he's a 9-year-old boy, and in the next couple of years, he's going to be a teenager, he's going to be in college, he's going to be by himself. And I know, and I just try and instill, that cultural core values, of our life is in general, because, this life is pretty much, it's not fair. But sometimes when we could talk, it could be oh, but that's not fair. But I tell them, this life is not fair. Things happen, bad things happen to good people. likewise, like, good things happen to black people or whatever. So with me, like, with all this stuff going on in the news, like, we've been having, I haven't been doing, I'll say, really had that conversation twice. And that was the first time was when he was having a conversation with his younger sister. And I just kind of picked his brain just to think, like, what he thought about it. And I was just quite impressed, like, of how knowledgeable he was. Like, we stopped going on around, like, in the news, and we're dealing with racism. And though they haven't experienced it, like, like I live in Montgomery County, and they've had that, they have mixture of friends, like, from different, like, ethnic backgrounds, both blacks, like, Caucasian. So they see everybody as equal. So they haven't really experienced that, like, but I just let them know, like, and they know also, like, they have people that are, like, actually racist, and you can't just help it. But as they grow older, I guess I'm gonna have more deeper conversation with him. But for now, like, that's the only conversation I've had with him so far, since, like, he's still at that age of not that teenage age yet.
Okay, so which leads me to my next question. Has any of your children, and this is open to everybody, has any of your children experienced racism in any form, in school, in the sports field, at parties, anywhere? Have they ever come to you, and mentioned, something, it's even possible that they didn't even have a name to it. They probably just came and described something that they encountered and something, and then in your mind, they're like, oh, my child was just racially profiled, Has this ever happened to your kids before? Anybody?
If I may answer that real quick. Yeah. So about last semester in school, my son is into IT and does a lot of STEM programs. So they had written some kind of program, right, in school. And he came home that day and it was like, I don't think I like this coding thing anymore. I'm like, what do you mean you don't like the coding thing? You've always liked to code. And it was like, well, one of my peers said my program was acting like a monkey dropping off the tree. So it was like, I just couldn't figure that out, Dad. And, so I mean, we literally just had to sat him down, obviously wrote a letter to the teacher and basically voiced our opinion about why that whole comment was made. But we knew what the kid meant. But our idea was to let him know that, hey, kids are going to be ignorant, they're going to be funny, they're going to say things that you don't like, but you can't base the whole idea as racism. You just have to let them know that, hey, things are going to happen in school that you're not uncomfortable. Not everybody's going to like you, but that was our way of basically handling the whole situation, was basically just make sure the teacher and our coder was enlightened with the whole conversation.
Yeah, awesome. Anyone else?
It happened to my 13-year-old when he was 11-year-old. Okay. I think that was the first time he ever felt like he was being discriminated, not based on his sheer skills or talent, okay, but based on his color. So there's this thing that was his first year at this United Academy called GA Cup, Generation Adidas Cup. Every kid wants to go. At that time, I think he was probably the top 3 kids on his team. Okay. And probably the top, not because it's my kid, but because of what he's been doing on the field, but he wasn't selected. And another kid that was selected, he felt like the kid wasn't as good as him, but they only select him because the coach, who is, Caucasian, likes the kid because it's Caucasian. So he was pretty disappointed that he didn't get selected for the GA Cup. Yeah. And I'm like, so what do you think? He's like, well, because he's white and they like him, and they always like him and da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, okay, so let's sit down and have this conversation. For me, that was like, okay, this is time to talk about it. And my way of handling it, I could be wrong, but my way of handling it was, you know what? Let me use that to feel fire in him, okay, which is sometimes because of the color of your skin, because of your last name. My kids don't have typical Nigerian last name. I mean, first name, Matai, Mikel, they're not typical Nigerian. You look at their last name, you will know that, okay, these are Nigerian or African kids. Yeah. In a sports environment that you really want to be part of, you're gonna have to work twice as hard as some people to prove that you're better. Yes. Right? And we watch a lot of games. I'm like, look at this player who's black, look at that player. If those two players have the same skills, the same pace, the same level, the other one is going to get picked because he's white on the national team. Let's just be real, right? So in order for the black player to get picked sometimes, he has to be shown where you can't really deny me. I'm so good that you can't help but say yes to me. You know, and I like the way he received it. Like, okay, cool. You know, I'm going to work hard. You know, I'm going to get better. I'm going to get faster. And thank God, since then, U12, U13, he's been picked to that tournament every time. Nice. And now he's proven himself so much in the club. And this United Academy is a huge club, you know, in the area.
Yeah.
So much that he has actually gone with the older kids, with the U15 to their tournament.
Wow.
And being selected for their tournament and going all over, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So yes, it happens, but the way you handle it is the key. You know, one of my mentors told me a long time ago that it's not what happened to you in life that makes or breaks you. It's how you react to it that can make or break you. Absolutely. You know, so I'm trying to instill that into them.
Absolutely.
Gonna face it. He's not driving now. I'm already talking to him about when you drive, there's certain things you can't do. You know, because in the next few years, he's gonna want to drive. I know that, and things are gonna happen. How do you handle it? You know, they've been with me in the car before when I've been stopped. You know, and for me, that was the time for us to have that conversation.
Yeah, it's funny that you actually mentioned that. So my son also plays soccer, but not, you know, at this point, I feel like it's more recreational, even though he feels like he wants to do it, you know, on a more professional level. And I remember we changed clubs last year, and we went from a club that was, I think, I would say about 70, 80%, you know, Blacks, African Americans. Well, not even, it was a mixture of, you know, African Americans and Africans. And, you know, he was very comfortable there. And I felt that he wasn't being as challenged. You know what I mean? Because there was nothing spectacular they were learning or doing at that point. So I felt like, you know, and I had a conversation with him, like, do you really want to take this soccer thing serious? And he was like, yeah, mommy. I was like, okay, fine. We got to up the game and find another club that's, you know, will challenge you. So we found another one that another parent had recommended that we're moving to. And, you know, more expensive, like 3 times what we're paying before. I was like, okay, fine. I'm gonna put in the money. It's okay. Let's do this. And I think from the very first day we joined, I was a little uncomfortable. And uncomfortable with that, it was, I think we were only 2 Black kids. And they had probably in his age group, I think he was under U12 or U11 or something then when we joined. I think out of maybe like 20 something kids, we're only 2 Blacks. But funny enough, majority of them were Hispanics. And within the first 2 weeks or so, my son was already like, yeah, mommy, I don't know about this. You know, I feel like I'm being put aside. You know what I mean? And the coaches were quick to shoot out instructions in other languages and everything that he didn't even understand. So he wasn't even feeling being inclusive in the first place. And, you know, different things kept happening as we went. And I had the same conversation with him that you did with Matai. And I mentioned to him, like, listen, unfortunately, you know, in this world, it's not even just Caucasians that we're talking about here anymore. The point is, if they're not the color of your skin, there is a very high probability that you're going to have to do more than the average, more than they do, in order for you to get noticed, in order for you to get selected, in order for you to get and earn that respect that you shouldn't even have to. And it really, really sucks that they have to, that this is the way life is, that they have to do above and beyond. You know what I mean? To get picked, to get recognized. That sucks on its own. But unfortunately, you know, it is what it is. That's the life that we're living in right now. And so I mentioned to him that you're going to have to just be extra good, you know, way better than these kids, better to the point where they can't even ignore you. They might not like the color of your skin. They might not like that, you know, Black kid is coming to outdo them or anything like that. But at the end of the day, coaches are all about winning and championships. And if having a kid of a different color is going to, you know, get them the cup that they're, you know, chasing after, then they're going to put you there. But you're going to have to do, and he asked, why do I have to do above and beyond what everyone else is doing? Unfortunately, as a parent, I felt like I didn't even have any cogent reason to give him other than, that's life. This is the life that we're in. It's super unfortunate. You know, I'm not condoning it in any way, but if you don't do that, these are the problems you're going to keep having. And the only way right now is to overcome this is for you to do this. So hopefully in his generation, maybe they'll figure that out. But for now, this is at this age, this is what you're going to have to do. So which brings, go ahead, Tim.
No, I was going to say, we actually had a similar experience real quick with my younger son. When he was 7 years old, he was playing in a Hispanic club where they were not speaking English to them, right? So he understood a little bit of Spanish, but not enough from the coach. And my wife told me 2 weeks before that, I said, okay, fine. In 2 weeks, I'll be there at the game watch. And I watched it, I experienced it. And as soon as it comes in, they give instruction, he doesn't understand it, he pulls them out. So immediately I went to the guy that owned the club, that owned the academy, and said, this, you see that? That's not good.
That's not good.
As soon as that season is over, I put him out of there because that's different. There's certain situations that you have to talk and educate them, but there's a certain situation that I feel like you have to pull your kids out of that situation. That this is not healthy. It's not healthy. For you. Yeah. There are better options. Let's go out.
I agree.
So in that situation, that was the way I handled that one. Like, we're not even dealing with this. You can keep the money. We're out of here.
I totally agree. And I think that's what we're going to do as well. Because when they started renewing for the spring season, just before Corona, came above, I actually didn't pay because I was sitting on the fence. Like, I didn't like the experience. And I'm not sure this is what I want for him, going forward. It's one thing to become an excellent and skilled. They're very skilled. The coaches are good at teaching, but at the same time, the experiences you want your kids to have goes beyond just learning that skill. And I wasn't comfortable with that. So I'm out there looking for another team. Big Timmy, you wanted to say something?
So I was going to say that there's one thing that we need to understand. And the first thing is that racism is not at the moment going crazy in the United States, right? It's only getting filmed, right? People are beginning to record the situation, people are beginning to record events and moments, right? So, my experience, I've been here for 2 years now, and I work at a bank as well. I was talking to a customer one day and she was like, can you connect me with someone that speaks English? And I'm like, but I'm speaking when I'm speaking English, and she was like, well, I don't understand you. And I was like, but I can understand you. I felt hard, to be honest. And this is for us to actually have an honest conversation here. I felt hard. I told my manager that this person just actually insulted me and made me feel, less of myself and stuff like that. And my manager felt bad for me, because so most times it's not even about your color. It's also about the way you speak. I've come to realize that a lot of us people come to United States as immigrants and then they change their name to something else because like me, my full name is Oluwatimilei. Like if you can pronounce it, I'll tell you Timmy for short. I still go by my name, Oluwatimilei in full. So for me, that's my own experience. I don't have a son yet. I just got married. Right now, my wife is freaking out, because she's like, what, just try to be safe. And also, when you look at the statistic, you understand that people my age or people with my own, my physique, we're actually in trouble because we're the kind of people that want to enjoy life to the fullest. We want to celebrate, we want to, live a life of, just celebrate stuff. And we tend to get like interactions with the police, right? And this actually goes down to what Tai said about, just be, just if they stop you, just stop, right? Just be, just have a conversation. I know there's First Amendment and gives you the right, for freedom of speech and all those things, but the less you speak, the less you argue, and the less you do all those things that people do that we see on video, I think it saves you from a lot of trouble, and also we need to understand that there's racism actually. So the way you actually, are perceived matters a lot. So, but that's my own awful experience. I also wanted to share that. It was really awful.
Thanks for sharing that. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is this, and I feel like, earlier on, we've had some touch points that delved into that, but I just wanted to kind of bring it up. And the only reason I'm bringing it up is because I like what I'm about to say. Obey before complain. Who remembers that? I think everybody at some point in time, yeah, exactly. If you either grew up in Nigeria or your parents are like super Nigerianized, or you went to boarding school, you must have heard obey before complain at some point in time, And when I was thinking about all our talking points today, that just came to my mind, and I just felt like, listen, I wonder if that helped. And I know that those that were stubborn growing up. Those of you that were climbing trees and you give your parents stress, I know you were there. But those of us that when they say obey before complaining, we actually obey before complaining. We're also here. I wonder if, and this again goes back to how we were raised, the culture, traditions, the culture, the fear of your parents rather than respect. You hear your father. Let me tell you guys a quick story before I move on. So I remember when I think I was in my teens, actually just after graduating high school. I think I graduated high school at 15. I turned 16 later on that year. And I remember then that, I hope my father is not listening. Actually, I think my dad is watching. So but let me say this though. So just in case you're watching, I'm grown now, so forgive me, right? So I used to have, there was a guy that I was dating back then. So, he would come and he would park, like our house then was like in a valley. So he would park up the street and we could see our house down the valley, right? And somehow the way those streets were mapped, we could also see my dad, driving on the main road in order to go make a turn to come down our actual street. So the moment we see my dad's car or somebody else sees my dad, they'll shout, "Show your daddy!" Run. So I was 16 years old, 15, 16 years old. At that age, I wasn't doing anything. I was just, I'm just there, just with my boyfriend and friends. As soon as I hear your dad, man, I would run. And the goal was for me to run and get home, catch my breath before he actually makes it down the loop with his car. So I don't know of any 15 or 16-year-olds in America who would do that. You know what I mean? It was the fear. And the funniest thing was, I don't even know if my dad would actually have said anything if he got home and he didn't find me. That's the funniest thing. But was I willing to find out? No. I wasn't willing to find out. There had never been a situation where he got home and he said, why are you not home? That kind of stuff. Or maybe he found out I was dating somebody and he's like, oh, you can't have a boyfriend. That conversation never happened. It was just, the fear had been instilled so much in me. You know what I mean? You don't even want, there's some things you don't even want to try your parents so that you don't find out. Because you might try them, find out, and you might not live the next day to try it again. That was how our parents, I feel like, a lot of us had those experiences growing up with our parents that way. And, we're in boarding school. I learned this the hard way. Now, I would also say that we had a little bit of a liberal upbringing as well. My dad was very open to, and my dad schooled here in Howard University, and that may have influenced the way he raised us as well, my sisters and I. We were able to have discussions with him. You know what I mean? We could read the newspaper, he would talk to us. He didn't, talk down at us and all of that stuff like that. We could actually have conversations and discussions. I remember when Awolowo was killed. I remember in the car, we had a discussion about that. I was very little then, but I very, very clearly remember that incident very well. So, and then I got to boarding school. And I'm coming with the mindset of, at home, I can say what I want. I'm allowed to talk. I'm asked for, they ask me questions, I give my opinion. And I'm coming to boarding school and the senior is telling me, don't talk unless you're spoken to. Go and fetch water. Water how? Why? Am I your maid? You know what I mean? They'll slap you or ask you to kneel down. You have to obey before you complain. A lot of us experience that. And so I was wondering that those experiences that we had growing up, right? Do you guys feel that in any way this shapes or has shaped us and has helped a lot of us in the African community largely stay out of trouble? And do you feel, or do you guys, instill some of those values or use some of those methods in raising your children so that they're not exactly super free and have that, they're not that liberal to do and undo, what they want to do, what they want to say at any given time? Like, what are the things that you took from your childhood that you feel like really, really helped you, but it's not super common these days in the way other communities or other countries raise their children, but you feel like could probably be a deterrent in helping us and keeping our kids, toe the line, be in the right lane? I don't know if I'm making any sense.
Yeah, from what you said, and I want to say that a good number of folks like us that grew up in Nigeria went through a very similar thing you went through. And my takeaway from all of those experiences was where the fact that at the end of the day, it's a win-win situation for us as parents. Because if you look at it from this angle, like one of the other things I didn't say about myself is that I teach middle school in my church. And I want to say I'm one of the most loved teacher in my church children ministry. Guess what? I'm about the most strict teacher as well. But I realized I had one experience some years ago. I went to a function. It was a children party. And I walked into that party, and there were a lot of kids from my church in that party. And the moment I walked in, like 20 kids just ran towards me. Uncle Yinka, like, I felt like a superstar. So I'm like, what am I doing right that made me deserve this kind of acknowledgement? Mm-hmm. Based on the fact that I am very, 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 very strict with them. I do not tolerate indiscipline whatsoever, whether with the kids I train, whether with the kids I coach, whether with my own children. But one thing I realized that at the end of the day, they still love you for it. Yeah. So why don't you just take that advantage and take time to teach your kids, spend time with them, discipline them, and you're still going to get loved irrespective. That's one of the experiences that we had growing up. My dad was one of the strictest dad ever in the world, but I loved that man like crazy. But all of those things that he taught me, all of those disciplines that I went through with him, was never meant to be a form of abuse or whatever, even though right in today's world, it could be considered abuse. I believe that one of those things that I learned from it was the fact that it helped put me in the right, on the right path. Even when I went to college, I always remember everything. He always tell us that, remember the son of who you are. Those were the things that kept me in line. So most parents today, you just have to do that. You just have to find a way to work with your kids, find ways to spend time with them, find ways to teach them the way you want them to behave, whether they are home, whether you are around them or not. And at the end of the day, you're going to reap the benefits.
Mm-hmm. So yeah. I agree with Yinka, right? I was one of the kids. I was a knucklehead as a child. I won't lie, because I didn't. Unlike most people, I didn't grow up with my parents. You know what I mean? I lived with uncles, and because of different circumstances, and I've always heavily punished. But as a dad, I would tell people this any day. I spank my kids. In America, they say, "Oh, you can spank your kids." I don't believe in that nonsense. It's crap, right? And I did it early. Yeah. Like, we didn't have any terrible tools in my house. There's no terrible threes and all that nonsense. No, yeah. You get spanking, you get dealt with early. And my older son is 13. I can't remember the last time I've had to spank him, or have to discipline him extremely. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But when you do it and do it early, so there's a couple of things that I feel like most parents should do. One, you have to have the fear of God. Okay. Then they have to fear you as a parent, because you are your kid's number one idol. Don't forget athletes, forget everybody else, forget the uncles next door or whoever the neighbors is. Once you have the fear of God and your parents fear you, there's certain things that they won't do. Even when I come home, when if they hear the garage door open, I know they're scrambling to pick up stuff, pick up toys, or move to their room. If they have mess in the kitchen, they're wiping it out. And they think I don't know, but I know. I just let it slide. You know what I mean? But that comes from the early punishment, early spanking, that they're in them like, oh God, if this happened, I know I'm going to get spanked. We've had situations in school where I've disciplined them and come to find out later on, it's not actually their fault, right? And I have to sit down with them and talk to them. And how they say, in America, I know I had this conversation with my younger son, a couple years ago. And, they say, well, Daddy, and kids, they're brilliant. I mean, we don't give kids, I feel like as a parent, we don't give kids enough credit for their knowledge. Kids are smarter than what you think.
Absolutely.
And if you have conversation with them at all time, you will get to pick their brain. You will get to know what they think.
Yeah.
And my younger son, who is a smartass, right? Unlike the older one, who's quiet, reserved, and chill. The smartass, hey, Daddy, they said if you spank, you get spanked. Some kids can call 911. I said, go ahead. You're gonna go to a group home. Remember the movie Like Mike? There was a movie. I don't know if you guys have seen it, Like Mike. With little Bow Wow when it was a group home. I said, I don't care. That's less money for me. I said, you know what? As a matter of fact, if you go to a group home, maybe I can upgrade my car to a Lamborghini. I've always wanted one anyways. So that's less money I have to spend, and see ya. You know, oh, no, I'm not saying me. I'm just saying, you know, I'm like, you think you're smart. I'm way ahead of you. There's gonna be an age where you're gonna be smarter than me, but right now I'm way ahead of you. So I know what you're saying, that you shouldn't be punished with scam. But I'm not saying do that all the time. I think the most key thing that we've all been saying here is spend time with them, have conversations with them, but don't be afraid to discipline them.
Absolutely.
You know, discipline them early, so that way you don't have to do it later on. Because as they become teenagers, it becomes harder.
Absolutely.
It becomes harder, right? My son is 13 years, is already taller than me. Am I going to pull up his slippers and say, let me spank him now? No, it's almost too late. You know, the kid is bigger than me. He's beating me in basketball. So, you know, but to answer your question though, you do, those discipline that our parents gave us helps, and you have to pass some of that on. You know, you can be, I'm not saying don't be, as a matter of fact, I'm saying don't be your kid's best friend, because you are not their best friend. You are their parents. Now, it's only white people that say, you know, I'm your best friend. No, I'm not your best friend. I'm your father, period.
Period.
You know?
That's true. So just before we move on to the next thing, I wanted to just mention something based on a couple of comments that we're seeing in on YouTube here. I want to stress that we're not trying to say that children, you know, we're not trying to say that children who are maybe stubborn or ill-behaved or difficult or anything, you know, deserve to be profiled or targeted. That's not what we are trying to say here. That's not the conversation at all, right? So I just want to make sure that we're not misleading things or misinterpreting things at all. I want to just state officially here for everybody's listening that it doesn't matter what the color of your skin is. It doesn't matter if you're sagging your pants. It doesn't matter if you're bumping and whatever on the road. It doesn't matter what part of, you know, America you live in, whether you live in the suburbs, whether you live in the hood. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your upbringing is. As long as you're human and the red blood flows right in you, you do not deserve to be racially profiled. You do not deserve to be killed. You don't deserve to be murdered, especially by, you know, police officers and authorities. You don't deserve any of that. We're not trying to say, that's not what we're trying to say. That's not what this conversation is about at all. So I want to make sure that nobody is misunderstanding what this conversation is about. We are not saying that at all. What we're saying is this, and what I said at the beginning of the show is this: the killings are not going to stop. Let's all be real. It's been going on for a long time. Matter of fact, somebody sent me a meme this morning from Sanford and Son, you know, and you know how old Sanford and Sons way back then, where, you know, one of them had mentioned, or, you know, about killing, and then Sanford had said, well, I thought it was only police officers that killed Black people. That's to show you how far back this has been coming. And we're talking about 30, 40 years ago was when this was done. It's not going to change anytime soon. What we're trying to discuss right now is as parents, we're trying to do everything that we can, look at every angle that we can to ensure that while we are working, you know, while, you know, everyone is, you know, we're having the conversations and, you know, and trying to make sure that the police officers are not abusing the authorities, you know, we're not targeted. What can we do? And what do we need to do? And what works already for people who are doing them, you know, from a Nigerian perspective, from an African perspective, immigrants perspective, to ensure that our children are not in the wrong place at the wrong time, even the wrong place at the right time, or hanging out with the wrong people, understanding right from wrong when they find themselves in situations like this, rather than trying to struggle or fight or whatever. They know how to calm and react, you know, not be aggressive. And I'll say this because this has been with me for a few days. And everyone who is of an African origin probably knows the saying: a living dog is better than a dead lion. Period. A living dog is better than a dead lion. And that would mean in so many ways that you have to be subservient in a lot of things that you do. Is it right? No. You know, is anybody happy about that? No. But the only way that you could possibly effect any change is if you stay alive. And you need to do everything. You need to explore every opportunity to ensure that you remain alive, your children remain alive. If your child is being harassed by the police, you know, wrongly, you know, and if they're punching him, and yes, you know, he feels eager to punch back because that's the normal reaction. Somebody punches you, you want to, you know, defend yourself and punch back. If he punches back, there's probably a 99% chance that he's not going to make it alive out of that. Mm-hmm. Let's be factual here. He's not going to make it alive out of that. Maybe he just needs to cower down and take the punches in order for him to stay alive and take these people to court and try to effect justice, if at all we can even get that. But the moment, a police officer, because I was reading, I don't know if you guys heard about, I think in 2015, Michael, a Nigerian guy that was killed in jail, Michael Ajibade or something, in 2015 or so. Let me see if I can find that. Yeah, I think in 2015 or so, he was a Nigerian guy, Matthew Ajibade. And I don't know if you guys know the story. So he went to the club December 31st, Happy New Year thingy with his girlfriend, and got into a fight. And they called the cops, right? And of course, they came to bundle him. When they came to bundle him, he got into a physical struggle with them, was able to get one of their tasers from one of them and use the taser on the police officer. Now, a lot of things could, have happened there. It's New Year's Eve, it's possible. I'm not saying, this is the case, but I can imagine New Year's Eve, everyone is always on a different high, a natural high. You don't even need to be drinking or anything for you to be extra high on New Year's Eve. There's that natural, pump right there, like, oh my God, we're about to enter a new year. I can imagine he's with his girlfriend, he's in the club, he's just feeling himself. And you have these police officers who come at him, raging and everything. And the first thing he knows to do is to defend himself, because they come at him aggressively. Anybody comes at you aggressively, your first instinct is to fight back. But unfortunately, we don't want to fight back with people who have a weapon. There's another saying that says that only a mad person fights with somebody who has a gun or who has a weapon. Unfortunately, he did, he fought back, he was defending himself from these people, from the attacks from these police officers. And in the process, I believe he was able to take one of their tasers from them, you know what I mean, and used it on them. Anyway, they took him down, took him to jail overnight. He was dead the next morning. They killed him in that jail. He was tied, he was slumped on a chair. They used the taser on him 5 times. While he wasn't even fighting back at that time. Thank God for, camera and everything. So they ensured that they killed that boy. I would rather have had him, like I said, it's unfortunate that it's the world that we're in. But as a mother, I would rather have had him not fight back so that he can be alive today than to have fought back like that. You know what I mean? And then they take it out on him. And when nobody was looking, they did what they needed to do. And not only did they do that, they went and falsified jail log records to cover their tracks. If we're not researching about, I didn't even know about him until yesterday. If we're not having this discussion right today, nobody remembers who Matthew Ajibade is except his family. A living dog is better than a dead lion. So that's what this conversation is about. How we handle these things. There's some things that unfortunately we cannot change, but it's happening. We just need to know how coping mechanisms, so to speak, until things are different from what they are today. So I hope I answered some of the questions that we're talking about here. Anybody could be attacked at any point in time. You don't deserve it. We're not trying to say, but there's some things that we can possibly do, or what can we do? I can see Parike's comment here. George Floyd didn't fight back. He didn't. That's what we're saying. He didn't. Some people did not fight. Some people don't fight back. But again, what are the things that we can do? What are the conversations that we can have with our children and ourselves? There's some situations that no matter what you do. Another one that I read about was a professor yesterday, I think in Massachusetts. I don't know if it's Massachusetts School of Arts and Design or something. A professor dressed, he was going to class. He stopped by to get lunch. He was walking to a cafe to get lunch. He had his badge on him, and police officers pulled him over and pulled next to him on the curb, asking him, saying that a white lady had just reported, I think a break-in or something. And he fitted the profile, African-American. He had a knitted hat, about 6'2", 100 and something, 60 pounds or something. So they drove past him and saw him and decided, oh yeah, you fit the profile. And he recounted his entire experience. He said, number one, he was not going to enter into the vehicle with them. They were saying, oh, we want to take you to the white woman for her to identify if you're the one. He said he knew if he got into that car, chances are he was not going to make it alive again.
Yep.
And he wasn't about to give a white woman the opportunity to change his life like that. And there was nobody except one Black woman standing a little bit of a distance who was watching the entire incident. And the woman, he talked to the woman later and she said she purposely stayed so there could be a witness. And, you know, he recounted all of the questions. He was dressed well. You know, he had a picture of how he was dressed decently, no pants sagging, nothing. But guess what? He was still racially profiled. He spent almost an hour with the police officers there. They went and brought the woman to him to basically identify him. That was the only way he was, even though he had a badge that showed the school and what he did, they didn't care. He didn't look like a street bum. They didn't care. So we're tackling this from every angle. We're talking, yes, we know that there's some things that, you know, nobody warrants it. I don't even care how you dress or how you look. You don't warrant being profiled or targeted in any way. But this is a discussion, the different ways. What can we do? How can we handle this? The conversations that we need to be having with our children. Whatever we're doing, you know, we're just having that conversation. So please don't get heated up in the comment section. I can see the comments are flowing. I love it. Thank you guys so much. But we're going to move on to, I don't know if anyone else has any comments about that. What was just said now?
No, we're good. I'm good.
Okay. So Timmy. All right, so Big Timmy. So Timmy just recently moved, relocated from Nigeria a couple of years ago. He's still been shuttling back and forth between Nigeria and here. Recently got married. And Timmy is in the process of, you know, immigrating his wife to America. And he was telling me that they plan to raise their family here. So Timmy, you've been here for a couple of years now. And I believe the last couple of years, especially with our sitting president, has been pretty much interesting for African Americans. You've had the privilege of experiencing all sorts of things as a Black man here. You know, you mentioned, you know, your accent and how, you know, somebody profiled you and all of that. So right now, are you feeling like, I'm better off just moving back to my Nigeria? You know, are you feeling like I want to move back to Nigeria, or I want to keep pushing it over here? And are you, you know, what are your thoughts concerning, you know, raising your family here? Do you still think that America is the place for you to raise your family, or are you having second thoughts?
To be honest with you, if I say I don't have second thought, I'm lying. But you know, those things pop in once in a while when I'm having conversation with people.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? I think I just go back to Nigeria.
Yeah.
But the truth is, like I said before, that racism is not, you know, getting crazy. It's just getting filmed, right? And we've also experienced it, you know, in our own little way, right? So for me, it boils down to everything you've said. It doesn't make you a coward if you don't, you know, show yourself and show your energy and stuff like that. Doesn't make you a coward. Don't get it wrong. I know that American system is not that way. American system, like when you speak out, when you speak up, and when you give in, right? So it's okay to say no, but that's not America, you know. So, but where we come from, you know, we are calm. We're more calmer with situations. We take our time to, you know, assess what is happening and stuff like that. So, I think for me, it's just to actually, you know, understand that these things happen. It's just for us to be careful when it happens to us. We need to understand, you know, what we find ourselves, who we hang out with, people that we work with and stuff like that. So we just have to put more, you know, we have to put in place, as my family, we need to just understand that we need to just be well behaved at all times so that we don't get into that picture, you know. So that's what is key for me. I still want to raise my child in the United States, you know. Everyone you have spoken, you know, on different ways on how they've been actually raising their children, having conversations with them, letting them understand something. So those are the things that I will still have to use to my own advantage, you know, speak with them regularly, talk to them about all these things, and just actually instill that you know, that right behavior inside of them. The fact that, oh, you have to be calm at all times. Don't go out there and just feel like, you know, yes, it's freedom of speech, First Amendment, yes, so I can talk back at the police, I can also. It doesn't make you a coward, to be honest. It's just like having conversations with people or having a fight. It doesn't make you a coward if you're quiet, right? It just makes you understand that you are actually well behaved. People say, oh, that guy was matured, you know. So people even use the word and say that, oh, that person actually matured or stuff like that. So it depends on how you see it and how you react to situations. So I will still raise my family here to your question. It's amazing. It's a country of opportunity. There's opportunity everywhere, to be honest. You know, even in Nigeria, there's opportunity in Nigeria. There's money everywhere. You know, it's just the system that works here, right? There's a right system in place, you know, there's power and stuff like that. You know, if we get all those things right in Nigeria, I'm sure a lot of people will not even immigrate to the United States. So yeah, to your question, I will still raise my child here. I will just ensure that, you know, we keep knowing about all these things. You have to be aware. Don't be ignorant of what is happening around you. That's something I tell people. A lot of people don't even know what is happening right now. People don't even watch the news. So it's important that you are aware about what is happening in your society so that you can inform your family, your friends, and people that are close to you, your relatives, on what is happening and how they can actually be at an advantage. You know, so a friend of mine was talking one day and she said that they stopped out on the road around DMV area and they told them to calm down and they brought the dogs to come and smell their car and so and that she was already getting really crazy. Like she was like, "Why are you stopping us? Why are you bringing a dog to come and sniff our car?" You know, stuff like that. Is it because we are black and stuff like that? So, but she was like, okay, she just has to just play low, just you know, they called back up and stuff like that, and you know, so yeah.
And those are some of the things that we're talking about, like that response. You know what I mean? I feel like if I were to be pulled over like that, in the way I choose to respond to stuff, and again, the living dog is better than the dead lion. I'm not going to be charging at them like that. Like, you know, is it because I'm black? Is it because I'm this? Maybe when I'm 100 feet away and I'm driving off, I can be, you know, going off and letting steam in my car. But I probably would not. Do you understand what I mean? Yes, I'm very well within my human basic rights to be able to speak up, you know, and say things and question things. If something doesn't feel right, I should be able to ask you questions. The person carrying the gun, does he feel that way? Are we on the same page when it comes to that? No. Probably not. Yeah. Do you understand what I mean? So that's part of the things that we're trying to talk about is however way that we can diffuse the situation, you know, whatever we can do, however way that we can diffuse the situation, that will, you know, there's nothing that we can do to change this 100%, but we need to do our own part and ensure that our kids are aware of the little things that they can do to ensure that they diffuse the situation. It's unfortunate as the life we have to live, guys, but
that's it.
It's also one thing to diffuse the situation, but you also have to know your right?
Sure.
Know your right, know common sense. You know, even with knowing your right, also use common sense is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
You know, because no matter what you do, racism, we're looking at it now because somebody just got killed.
Yeah.
But you know how many people have been discriminated at their workplace? You know, racists are not just cops. Racists are your neighbors, are your friends, you know, are your co-workers, sometimes it's your employer, it's your boss or your supervisor, you know. The way I look at racism is different, right? It's the traditional way that everybody look at it, which is discrimination. But also I think a lot of racist people don't see us, Black people, as their equal, you know. Yes. They see us as someone that's less, you know. I was in the military, like Bookie said, on the good job, but I left because of discrimination. Yeah. It got to a point that I felt like, you know what? U.S. Army is full of racist people. No matter what you go, you're always going to face it. So you have a choice, right? Yeah. I had a choice and I'm like, you know what? I'm not re-enlisting. I'm done. I'm going to go out. Let me go out here in the regular war and fight it instead of being here and being discriminated. And it's not just me. You know, couple of my friends who are Africans or African American also been discriminated, you know, in the military. And you got to get to a point where you can't really prove it. So like you're saying, with our kids, you just have to continue to educate them, make sure that one, they know their rights, you know, and two, how do you handle situations that happen to you? How do you handle it when you feel like, you know what, you are being wronged, you are being discriminated? Either with cops or either with friends.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
My son's very close friend is a white kid that lives in Bethesda, other side of the county.
Yeah.
Right? But they have basketball in common, they have soccer in common, they're in the same grade, they have a lot of things, they have the same birthday.
Yeah.
You know, that's his best friend. But he also understands that, hey, there's certain things that he believes in that I don't believe in.
Yeah.
You know, and that goes from having conversation. And knowing that, okay, this kid is your friend, but is a Jewish white boy, raised as a young Jew. So he's going to have a certain beliefs, and it's not his fault, because racism doesn't start from the people that we deal with now. I was in another group chat last night, and we were trying to talk about the same thing. And the moderator asked me, like, what can we do to stop this? And my honest opinion is I don't think we can do anything to stop it.
Yeah.
Right. But I think it's one of those things that is going to be less and less as time evolves. I think Timmy said it earlier that racism didn't just start now, it's just being filmed. It's just been exposed, right? So as our generation are facing these things, it's not going to stop, because the people that are racist, they pick up from their father's father that are KKK, Klan, and all those things. They pick up the culture. But as you can see, like, a lot of our kids are more involved and more educated than us. It's like homosexual. If you look at it back in our father's time, they were homosexual back then, but they didn't talk about it. They didn't bring it up. It was a silent thing. But now it's more flamboyant, it's more out there. People observe it because the generation have turned. So I think by our kids and our kids' generation, the education and the involvement of the society will automatically reduce racism. But how do we survive between now, and how do our kids survive, and their kids and their kids' kids, when the time is no longer, where it gets to a point where the hardcore racism people is less than 0.01% of America. And this is not just something in America. I mean, anywhere you go worldwide, there's racism. China, Brazil, Japan, Argentina, you name it. You know, so I don't think there's a way to stop it, or there's nothing we can do to really stop it. We can pass legislation to have rights and make sure our rights is well known. But the mentality, the sickness of racism is going to take a very, very long time to resolve.
I totally agree. And, you know, guys, I see the heated comments. Ibitayo, I see you, and I'm specifically addressing you on this. We are not perpetuating in any way this conversation that in order to avoid being stereotyped or profiled like this, you need to be a good kid. You need to walk the straight walk. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Even if you went to go rob a store, you have the basic right to leave, to face trial if need be. Nobody has any right to shoot you or kill you just because they want to. That's not what we're saying. And we know, trust me, a lot of people that we know here, the people that I know personally, parents that do everything by the books, right, to raise their children. And kids are going to do what they want to do. That's one thing. You know, some things parents don't have control over. And there are some situations where you as a person have done every single thing. You're not in the wrong place. You know, like George, for example, yes, maybe he went to a store. Maybe he presented a bill that was, that was forged or whatever. But even if that's true at this point, I don't think anybody has even assessed, has anybody even looked at the bill to even,
but Sharon, but let's be real though. George died over a counterfeit $20 bill, right? Nobody here or nobody on the comment can say they have not accidentally picked up a fake bill.
Yeah, and he didn't have to die because of that.
Manufacturing a fake bill. He might have gone somewhere, gave somebody $50. They gave him a fake.
They gave him a fake bill.
Without him knowing, and he ended up representing it accidentally without even knowing.
See, I agree with you.
The store said that he doesn't even think that he knew that the money was
fake. So my thing is this: even if the money was fake, even if George knew that the money was fake and he went, he didn't deserve to die. That's what I'm trying to get you to understand. We're not trying to say that, oh, if you did something wrong, then you get what comes at you. That's not what this conversation is about. We're tackling things from every single angle. One, ensure that we are doing the right things. And then two, when we do the right things and somebody, things like this happen, how do we handle it? How do our kids handle it? That's a part of the conversation. George did not need to die. He probably didn't even know that, it's very possible. That's why when you go to the grocery store, the $100 bills, they check them 1,000,001 times. And I know when I go to the grocery store with a $100 bill, when they're checking it, the first thing that comes to my mind is, I didn't even check it myself when, I got the money from whomever. Not as if I even know how to check if a bill is legit or not. But so if for some reason they're doing this and they check and it's not legit, then what happens? My behind is going to get hauled to jail. You know what I mean? Do I deserve to get killed? Absolutely not. Nobody deserves to get killed. It doesn't matter who, it doesn't matter what. Nobody needs to get killed. Ibitayo, I hope that's clear to you now. We're not trying to say that. We're saying everybody needs to do what they need to do. We're starting from the home front, and then we've moved on to when we've done everything that we can do. Our kids are good, and you find yourself facing people who are racist like this. How do our children, and even ourselves as adults, how do we handle those kind of situations to ensure that we can live another day? That's where we are now. So, Ibitayo, I hope you're good.
Okay. Yeah, Sean, in addition to what you just said, the only reason why a lot of people are coming out in support of George today is because he did everything right. Imagine if he did not. It's not going to get the, it will have been another statistic out there, but it did everything right and it still died. That is why it has all this support. So the primary thing is for us as parents, we just have to take that first step, do the right thing, train our kids, spend time with them, do all of those things that each and every one of us have spoken about in this setting. It's not a one size fit all, but at the end of the day, what we want is, as parents, as children, we want to come back home the same way we left in the morning. That is my priority for myself, and that's my priority for my family. I have to do what I have to do for my kids, for me, my wife, and every member of my family to survive. You understand? So that we can avoid this kind of situation.
Yep, I totally agree. Jay, you've been quiet. And Daniel as well. I want to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts about all the things we've talked about recently?
Right. So I would say we just need to keep driving that whole awareness. Obviously, it's a cycle that's been going on for decades, for a century, in this country. I think awareness definitely brings light to an issue. It's been going on and on, and the response from the media and from everybody has been sugar-coated, right? Like, it's crazy right now, and then 6 months down the line, nobody's talking about racism anymore. Right? There was a quote I read on CNN earlier from one of the protesters. It was like, if you don't speak up and don't say anything, you're just like the officers that stood and watched, right? And then he went on and said, your ignorance is not proof of your innocence, but the fact that you're remaining ignorant, you're no different from the individual who had their knee on the gentleman's neck. And it is right. I mean, we tend to just ignore things every once in a while because it's not hitting close to home. We just have to keep emphasizing on the awareness, making sure the public doesn't, the whole message doesn't die off easily. Continue to instill, obviously, our values of the immigrant parents into our kids. Continue to educate them, continue to advocate, on their behalf as well. That's just my take on it.
Okay.
With mine, just so with everything we've been talking about, I think the most important thing, and which is really, I believe really helps, which really helped me, when I was a teenager over here, growing up over here, is also the cultural core values, and being from our background, where we came from. I mean, with that, trust me, that really, really helped me. When I came over here, I know, Yinka said something earlier, even we knew growing up back home, by the time you left home, you've been by yourself, as a teenager in college, that you always remember, what our parents would tell us, always remember the son of whom you are, anywhere you go, so even by the time they grew up, they get into that age, they even without even let's say they want, they having this peer pressure, they will still have this at the back of their head, oh, mom told me this, dad told me this, are they gonna be proud of me doing this, so with that, I think is still always important, regardless, we living here in America, having all those freedom of speech, you could do whatever you want, which is totally different from where we grew up from, we still need to let them know, listen, this fine, this is your country, this is where you guys were born, you've been raised over here. At the same time, also these are also core, cultural values, you need to understand, and once we instill that in them, we continue to share that bond, like I said earlier, with me, because I just literally started, having that conversation. We really talked about it with my son twice now, because he's still 9 years old. I know as time progresses, I'm going to continue, now that it's all over in the media right now, even thinking about all this racism, all this stuff's been going on, and it's still going on. And the other reason, all this stuff has been publicized and we're seeing all this is because this led to a death of an innocent man, which was totally avoidable. you know, and so like we sought, we just let them know, like, you know, so when even if they come or they encounter it, like, you know, they'll know how to handle themselves, like, you know, because it's stuff we always been talking about, like, you know, then they'll understand.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. I totally agree on that. So I think one other thing also is that, and I feel like everybody's going to say the same thing here about voting. So in this kind of situation now with the police officer, Derek, I don't know, Chauvin, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, the guy who knelt on George's neck, basically murdered him. Let's just call a spade a spade. You know, I think yesterday we all heard that he's been charged with third-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter. And the other three cops that were there, you know, have not been charged yet. They're still undergoing investigation, right? So what are some of the things as a community, you know, how do we effect legal change? Do you guys think there's anything that we can do besides going out there to protest? Which I'm not so, you know, I saw the protest that's been happening yesterday, and I'm glad, you know, people are out there, you know, making their voices heard. But y'all need to stop looting the stores. CVS has nothing to do with this. Aldi doesn't have anything to do with this. You know, I don't know about the looting of stores and all of that. And I see that, you know, they're protesting and all of that. But what do you guys think, aside from the protest, what do you guys think that as a community, as a Black community in general, what are the things that you guys feel like we can do, you know, to facilitate
I want to say something about looting real quick.
Yeah.
And then before I answer your question, so
Sure.
the people that are when we have this kind of things, we have to understand it's not all black and white, right? There was a video yesterday we shared on our Afrobeat Live platform on Facebook and Instagram about the police officer who dressed in all black and was breaking into AutoZone.
I saw that, yeah.
And even the protesters were trying to stop him.
Yeah.
And then they found out later on that it was actually a white man who was a police officer. So one thing about protesting is most people that go out to protest, they protest in the right context. Like they want to make a change. They're not going out there for violence. But you also have the few that want to take advantage of this to loot the stores. And if you also look at the people that are going into Starbucks and CVS and all these places stealing stuff, it's not all black.
Yeah.
Half of them are white.
Yep.
They just want to take advantage of that situation. And then you have the stupid people like those cops that is encouraging it just to make us look back and say, see them, I told you they're animals. So look at them. You see what I'm saying? Doing things. So we don't want to say just by it, don't protest. Yes, if you want to protest, protest safely in a safe environment. That's the one I want to say about it. Yeah. To answer your question, what can we do, right? We've talked about, just first of all, fix your house before you go and fix everybody else. You know, pay attention to your kids, your wife, and your family. That's number one. You know, your health, start from yourself, right? Because the thing is, if you're not disciplined as a parent, how can you discipline a child? You know, you can't be that parent that says, so you do as I say, but not as I do.
Yeah.
You know? So start from yourself, lead from example, pass it on to your kids, your family, your immediate environment. Mm-hmm. Also pay attention to your local politics.
Yep.
As the Nigerians, a lot of time we say, oh, I don't care, I don't even vote. Well, some people not voting and not paying attention to their local politics is how we got the orangutan that we got in the White House right now. Right? This is part of it, you know, and I'm not blaming us as Black people. There's a much bigger than us, but I think we should participate, you know, make changes in a local environment. People don't even know who their local council is. They don't even know who their local, the mayor or the county executive is.
Yep.
Right. So, but when your school is not good, it's bad, you want to get upset, but you never even paid attention to it. Right. A lot of parents, a lot of African parents, they're very guilty of this. They don't participate in the PTA. Yeah. But you want to criticize the people that do and criticize the decisions that are being made. But you don't even go to the PTA. You're too busy to worry about the Lagbo or the next fan or the next fund, but you don't even know what's affecting your kids in the school. You know, a lot of people don't even know who the kids' teachers are.
Yes.
You don't know them. How can your kids go to school and you don't even know who their teacher is? You don't go for PTA meeting. You don't go for teachers meeting. You don't go for, they have a welcome night to welcome the kids every semester, every grade level. You're too busy to go.
Yes, sir, right.
But you want to spank the kid or get mad at the kid when it's not doing well.
The kids know all of these
Me
things
personally,
too.
I mean, I can give so many examples of things that we need to do,
Yeah.
but I'll leave it at those 4 or 5 things right now, which is pay attention to yourself, be the example, pay attention to your family first, and then know your local government, your local chairman, your county executive, your mayor, wherever you live, and get involved in your kids' school.
Yep.
The PTAs and all those things. If you can do those things, it's a great step. If you come into your kids' schools and your son knows that, okay, my dad, my mom has my teacher's email and phone number.
Yep.
I can't lie when something happened in school because they're going to text him and call and find out.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It's that simple.
Yep. I totally agree with you, and I'm very much a hands-on mom as well. I think everybody in my son's school, they know me, right from the bus drivers all the way down to his teachers, down to the teacher that puts them on the bus from school, the one that picks them up. All of them know me. I do my best to ensure that I maintain a relationship with all of them. I go as far, and this might seem very inconsequential, but I go as far as, during Teachers' Day, packing little gifts for them, and just so that let them know that I know you, I see you, I'm aware of you. And guess what? My son reaps the benefits of that. He gets the extra attention, the extra love. I remember one time, I think a couple of times, we had an issue on the school bus where some older kids, because his school, the school bus merges kids from, I think, the middle school with his elementary school on the bus. So when he was much younger, you have situations of the older kids picking on the younger ones. And, I'm sorry, I would drop you before I allow you to do that to my kid. I don't care if we're going to send us to Nigeria the next day, but you come near my child, that's going to be the first and the last time. So I had a conversation with the bus driver. Listen, I'm going to let you handle this, but if I hear pimp one more time, I'm coming on this bus. Whatever will happen after that happened, don't gotta do that. I'm just telling you, that was just me. But I make sure that, I introduce myself to them. I'm there to pick him up in the evenings. He's older now, he can walk home himself, but the bus drivers know me, and I speak to them one-on-one. If my son exhibits any kind of behavior that is a concern to you, that is a concern to another child, that is threatening in any way, and I start with my child. This is me starting from my home. I don't go say, if anybody comes near my child, no. I'm going to hold my son accountable for all of his own actions. Okay. And if he's doing everything that he needs to do, I will not tolerate another person coming or trying to bully my child. And you're the adult in the situation. So I'm also holding you accountable and responsible. But I'm nice to them. I get them gifts. Mother's Day, Father's Day, I literally things like that. They're teachers. I'm there for PTA. I'm there for everything. I volunteer for classroom, parents, whatever it is that needs to be done, I'm there. And, most people know that I'm a single parent. So you can imagine me juggling, my numerous businesses with, my 9 to 5, and then, my child as well. And I'm trying to make sure that I'm there, I'm available, because it's very necessary. All of these changes, I keep saying, starts from the home front. We're not still saying again that, you're doing everything that you can does not mean that your children will be exempted, but you cannot ignore the fact that it starts from the home, being involved, being available. If you're not careful, America is going to turn you, it's going to like a rat race. You're going to be running from church to work to home and repeat. And you're going to forget the fact that you have children, you have a family. That involvement that Tai has mentioned is super there. Taking accountability, being responsible, being aware. I will say this, that I'm super guilty of not knowing who my local leaders are. The only time I really know is when it's election time and I start seeing, all the flyers around. That's when I'm like, okay, who's this person? Who's that person? Whatever changes or reforms they are doing the entire time that they're in power, I really don't pay attention to that. So I'm going to take this and say that right after this conversation, I'm going to go start Googling, from my councilman here. And it's so funny that I live right across the local government council of my city. That's the funniest, the irony of this thing right here. So I'm going to take it upon myself. And I want to encourage everybody who is watching, like, we need to start being aware. This is how we affect change. It's going to be hard to affect change at the top when you're not even paying attention to all the way at the bottom, because that's how most of these politicians are groomed. From the bottom, they get groomed all the way up to higher positions.
The reason why it's very important for you to know your local leaders is one day you may need them. If you ever get in a situation where there's a dispute somewhere at the school or anywhere in your environment, and you're not getting a response back, if your local election leaders or local politicians sends a letter, it goes a long way. Trust me.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. So before we even move on to other people commenting about that, Ty, based on what you've just said, what do you think? And sorry, guys, I just get spontaneous like this. Do you feel like it might be beneficial for us to have, I don't know, some kind of event, maybe like a quarterly event where we're bringing in our council leaders to meet with our community, not just when it's election time and they're looking for our votes, in order for us to know, and I don't know if that's even possible, you know what I mean? Some kind of networking or dinner or something.
I know in Prince George's County, the politicians also have events that they send out. I'm sure you probably get flyers or letters from your councilman at your house that you probably get and fling right to the trash.
Yeah.
In those days, they also have events, and I'm not picking on you, you know that. They also have events that they actually invite you to meet them.
Yeah.
That is already set up. That most people don't get. Like last election, I actually helped one of the guys in my area that I actually like. Yeah. Campaign a little bit just to know, hey,
yeah,
I believe in you, I trust in you, I'm helping you campaign. I don't need anything back. You have my votes, but I'm just letting you know. So hopefully I never need them, but you never know.
We're talking about that. You need to go check your mails for the primaries for June 2nd.
Oh yeah, I've done that already, mailed.
You got to start by that, Sean.
So I actually saw that in one of the groups that I was in yesterday, and I was thinking to myself, okay, it's probably been like a week since I opened my mailbox, but I haven't received anything yet. So I'm going to go open my mailbox after this to see if my ballot paper is there. Guys, if you're a U.S. citizen, and you're registered to vote, your ballot papers, Abby, what was it, like an envelope, white envelope?
It's a rectangular.
Rectangular. Does anyone have anyone close by so they can show? I should be looking.
It's about this shape.
It's about that shape. The Ty has. Yeah. There you go. Guys, you are looking for what Ty has on his hands. You are looking for that in your mailbox. Is there a deadline? When is the deadline?
No. I think
you have to mail it. No, it has to be postmarked. You have to put it in the mail latest June 2nd. It's got to be postmarked June 2nd.
That's Tuesday, June 2nd.
So it's a few days. Yeah.
So this is actually my wife's. I made mine already.
Okay.
So.
You got to get out to fill our own house.
I'm gonna need you to mail yours.
Seriously, like what I said, that being part of local politics, not just during the presidential election, is extremely important. That is why we have all these crazy regulations that are being put in place by these local politicians that goes against the Black community, because they know the Black people don't come out for election like that, except when it's a national election. So when we don't come out, they make laws that goes against our interest, and that's why we don't get the kind of justice we deserve when we have situations like this.
Okay, so I think a lot of people are very much there. We're seeing comments about being familiar with our lawmakers and with the school. So I think everybody's kind of agreeing to that. If you've seen Kumbi Laware, please, I know you have yours. I can see it in the comment section. Please, I know you don't know these people, but let's go and start Googling. If you don't know who the people are when you open your envelope, it's not too late to quickly just sit down, spend a couple of hours, start researching them, seeing what you can find out about them, see if there are other people on social media talking about them. If they've already been, if this is not their first rodeo down the drive, I'm sure we will see some existing information about the initiatives that they've introduced or are running currently in their current seats, and that can give us a better idea of the kind of person that they're voting with. I'm very guilty of that, so I'm really going to pick that up as soon as we're done with this call. I will go and look through my mailbox. So does anybody know, if I don't have mine, what am I supposed to do? Where do I go to? Can I go somewhere and get it physically? Kai, do you know?
I don't know. Yinka, do you know?
I think there's still an option. I'm not 100% because of COVID-19. I think there's still an option to go vote physically, but it might be a little bit out of your way. But you can go on the Maryland State website and get the details. Okay. Then most importantly too, a lot of people, if you're concerned about COVID-19 and you are wondering about the oncoming November election, You want to do whatever you have to do. You want to do whatever you have to do to make sure that you vote. This is the time for you to apply for absentee ballot. It's legal. You don't have to worry about going to queue up, line up at the polling station. Apply for it now. It's going to get sent to you before November. And when it's time for you to fill it out, you just fill it out and put it in the mail.
Okay, you guys are hearing all of that. These are different ways that we can effect change from a legislative perspective. It's not just about, well, like I said, it's not about Owambe. I know right now that all the Owambes have been canceled for the summer. So, right, instead of you to be preparing for Owambe, these are the things that we can do. There's a lot that we can do in an African community to ensure that we are voting the right people in all the different levels of government. So we want to make sure we're doing that. Somebody also mentioned to encourage everyone to take the census. Yes, I think I did mine a couple of months ago. Everyone should have received an envelope also about census. There's like a code that you go online. Exactly. There's a code that you go online to put in and register your family. This again is this is also what determines how much money is coming to different local governments and our different cities. So make sure you're doing the council as well. We cannot take that whole Niger behavior and come here. Politics, government, everything is a big deal. It's super important that we're very, very involved in this as well. So we have somebody who dialed in and we're going to take a call. Guys, I'm going to post in here again. If you want to call, if you want to just chime in and say something, please, I posted in the comment section of YouTube. The dial-in number is right there. We want to hear from you, hear what you guys have to say. Again, let's keep it clean, keep it civil, so that I don't have to hang up on you. Just say, all right. So let's admit this person in. Hello. We have a caller on 202-247-5737. Are you there?
Why now? In the video, like
we can hear you. Hello. Hi.
Hello.
We have a caller on 202-247.
Don't expose my phone number. Hi, Sean. Hi, Sean. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. My name is Bukola. No, my name is Bukola.
Buki, hi. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Thank you, babes. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you. I'm just going to go right in. Thank you for the panelists that are there today. And it's good to see fathers and men being the one that take this conversation and lead this initiative. But one thing I want to bring up is, have we considered having conversations with the other party? When I say other party, I mean our kids are not going to be around only Africans, only Black friends for the rest of their lives. Workplace. Ty mentioned about racism in the workplace, on the basketball courts, tennis courts, soccer field. How do you handle the conversation with parents? I have this conversation with my son's parents, my son's friend's parents. They get deep, but most of them are sheltered. Most of them are educated, but there's that subconscious bias that they don't know they have, that these conversations let them realize. And I'm just going to go straight to the point. There was an incident when I took my son to the African American Museum in the summer for the first time, the younger one. And he woke up that night and to our room, and he was all disheveled, like crying. And my husband and I were asking what happened to him. And he said, all those children that were going through all that, does that mean, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. All those children that went through all that, does that mean that Rocco's mommy can do the same thing to me? If you've been to the museum, it's very graphic. And his question was, can slavery happen again?
Oh, wow.
So when he said that, and this is a true story, when he said that, guess what I did? Next day, I called my his friend's parents, and we just hung out. The four of them were white, and I told them what he said. They were quiet, and I said, now, you help me answer that question. Can it happen again? And they said, I will tell Kumi, that's my middle one, that because now we know and we love him, and he can be in the pool with us, he can hang with us, we will make sure hell will freeze over before anyone tries to treat our son, Kumi, that way. So when they realize that these are the struggles that we have to deal with, and they're in their shelter world of there's no racism. But this was an 8-year-old, he's been sheltered all his life thinking, oh my God, Johnny's my friend, Funke is my friend. And then he comes and sees that Johnny's great-grandmothers or grandmothers were part of that and did nothing back then. That can they do the same thing again? So conversation of talking to your white friends, like, this is what my child goes through, this is what we're going through. That conversation needs to happen. You got to have those tough conversations with them. Don't be aggressive. You got to have those conversations. At work, I have them all the time. At work. You got to have those conversations with them. Like, what are you thinking? One sent me a text and said, oh, what do you suggest on Netflix? In the midst of all that's going on, you're asking me about Netflix, what you watch on the show? So I responded and I said, you know what? No. Let's have a conversation. I'm not okay. And that's I don't want to speak too much, but that conversation needs to happen. And it needs to happen. In my son's school, I went to the principal, we had a conversation, Parents' Day, all the parents all the men here, I've seen your faces now. When they have their career the next day, you all are coming. I need Black men to come and let them come and see Black men in positions doing great things. I don't want to get too emotional, but I don't play with those things.
I agree.
I tell them. Yes. We can talk. They're not listening to us. But you got to pull this. You got to drag them in. Yeah. Your grandparents, your great grandparents started this, and you cannot act like you don't know because they didn't tell you. Yeah. This is what your friends show that you play with on basketball or you're going to sport. This is what is. Our sons are going to be their roommates in college on campus. Our sons are going to be with them at jobs. They're going to be with them. How do they handle that? Let their sons also see what Sean is going through, Buki is going through, Kumi is going through. Yeah. They need to be dragged in. And I'm going to end on this. You're talking about why they're looting. I'm not supporting the looting, but this is all financial. Last year, if you go research, Fairlife, the milk company, do you know why they went out of, part of one of their lines of business went out of business? Because you know why? Somebody showed a video of how animals were being treated at one farm. Fairlife makes a lot of money. One farm. The company I work for, Fairlife uses they use the Fairlife yogurt. Do you know they stopped using Fairlife? You know what they told us? Oh, they just wanted to change quality control, something to switch up. No, that's a lie. They don't want to be associated with that type of company. So it's financial for these people. It is financial. It's all about the money, some of them. So you got to have those conversations. If you could take the time to sever ties with companies that do not care about animal rights, how about people who are not treating our children, our men, fairly? So they need to be dragged into this conversation. They only see from that angle, not all of them, but they have to be in this conversation. You got to go out of your Prince George's County. I love PG County. You have to leave Prince George's County. You have to leave Anne Arundel County. You have to think how my child will function around these people. And the parents need to be brought into this conversation, the white parents. They're the ones. So I'm going to leave on that. I know everyone has to hear about that, but they're going to be your roommates. They're going to be your bosses, your friends. That decision, and I told my white friend, and this is how I ended the conversation. I'm going to leave it at this. I said, I've told my son, if you're on campus and you see a white drunk girl, and if my son sees your white drunk daughter pass out because she's having fun, he does not have the position or authority to be a hero. He should walk away and go find someone to help that girl, because I cannot have someone just say, oh, he was around her. So you're going to have to train your daughter to know not to pass out drunk on campus and expect some good, well-raised Black boy, Latino boy to come help her, and then he'll be dragged. Case in point, the Brock boy, the swimming boy in the Harvard that happened a few years ago. Yes. That right there is a slap. Yes. So I'm telling them, you're going to have to fix your children. Yes. My sons are not going to come rescue because you. So this it's not just us. Bring them in the conversation. Yes. We're going to be polite. We're going to be civil. Let them see the emotions. Yes. Nobody raises the child, spends all that money, public or private school, to let the child or your brother or cousins be murdered. They need to feel the emotions. The way they cry about their puppies and their cats, they need to feel the emotions and the rage. They need to feel it. Yes. Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you so much. We love you. Thank you so much for calling in. We're going to address the points that Buki raised just now. That was very, very awesome. So I think also in the comment section, we started talking about that. So,
excuse my emotions. Thank you very much.
No, it's okay. The emotions are allowed. I totally feel you, Mama. Thank you so much. I'm going to look into this. I'm going to look into seeing if we can host another session where we have our non, Black friends because we want to hear from their perspective as well. What are they doing to ensure that their children are not the Dennis Chauvin of tomorrow? You know what I mean? We're
So
gonna have.
sorry, I wanted to add to that real quick. I'm going to share one of the worst racism experience I've ever experienced in my life.
Wow.
Before I do that, to answer Buki, on ABA, we actually have so I'm sorry, it's not a shameless promotion, but I just wanted to answer. We actually have like 2 show planned this week where we're going to have police officers, African American, a white person, just different mix. I'm not going to be on there. It's going to be hosted by Mike Obodozie, The Voice. It's called American in Turmoil, where, try just to bring the different ethnic backgrounds and different people together and let's talk about it, so that's planned. But one of the worst racism experience that I've ever shared, that I've ever experienced, was about 6 years ago. Yinka Davis knows this. I used to be the coach at Prince George's Community College, the soccer team over there. And I coached there for years, as assistant coach and as head coach. And there was a time that we had a game, and I'm gonna start stating facts and putting people out there because at this point I don't really care. At a college called Potomac State in West Virginia. Potomac State is a D3 community college in West Virginia. And as a player, I played way back in 98, 99. We've always hated them. We've always beaten them because we know they're racist. The coach is racist. But this particular year, we went, I was assistant coach then. We went to Potomac State. Normally when you go away, the hosting team is supposed to allow you to use their locker room. And if it's more than 2 hours, you're supposed to shower before you come back, right? Just for hygiene's sake. When we got in the locker room, there was a blackboard on the wall. And they had a picture of a black penis on a noose saying, we're going to kill y'all. And N-word. No joke, I swear to God. I have the picture on my old phone. I'm so mad at myself that I did not save those pictures and transfer it, because this is like 6 years ago. They literally had it and I didn't see it. And mind you, I was an assistant coach. At that time, my head coach was a white guy, right? That born and grew up in PG County, but moved out of, Prince George's County. And it was a Latino kid. If you know the college, the players is probably 50% Africans, 30% African American, and 25% African American, maybe 25% Latino. Every year we get maybe 1 or 2 white players, right? That can actually make the team. And it was a Latino kid that saw it. And he's like, what the hell? And all of a sudden, everybody else looked at it. And next thing I know was like, coach. I'm like, yo, calm the F down. What are you guys yelling for? And they're like, everybody just pointed at it, like, look at that. Wow. Right? This was a college, a university, wow, on their wall because we're coming. And the coaches, and I believe that some of the coaches from the other team knew about it.
And they did nothing.
And they actually thought it was funny. So I went, took a picture of it. A couple of the players took a picture of it. And some of the players didn't want to play, right? And I had to and I showed it to their head coaches, like, oh, no, that's no big deal. I'm like, okay, no problem. I waited till he left and I put the players together and I say, hey, guys, we're going to play. We're going to beat the shit out of them. And then we're going to get out of here. Yeah. And then when we get back to the school, we're going to report it. But we came here to play. We're going to play. And 2 of the players that was really, really distraught were the African-American players, not even the Africans, right? And I had to put them aside and really, really talk to them. And after the game, we're supposed to go to the locker room today. So I'm like, we're not going there. So I had to tell the head coach, like, I don't care how you feel. You don't feel the pain that we feel, right? We're not going to that locker room to take a shower. We're not going to sit down and think again. You're supposed to go to the other team and let them know what it is.
Exactly.
Right? But you don't want to do that because you're thinking it's not a big deal. But guess what? To me, to us, it's a big deal. Yeah. We're going to get in that bus and we're getting out of here. Yeah. And normally you're supposed to eat. We didn't eat that day. I told the bus driver, we're not eating till we get to Hagerstown, till we get to Maryland. I'm getting out of West Virginia as quick as possible, as far away as possible from this place, and as quick as possible we can. And that's exactly what I did. And he was mad at me all the one, but he saw that he couldn't do anything because the player was on my side. Even the white player was on my side. You know, make a long story short, when we got back to the school, my athletic director, who was a white female, I reported it. It never got past her.
Wow.
Because the AD at the other school, the coaches at the other school were all white. Fast forward almost a year later, this same head coach got fired because before I made it to practice, he told a bunch of black kids, run, the N-words, run. And one of the players happened to be his friend happened to be one of the vice president of this prestigious community college. This is a true story.
Wow.
And he tweeted it out, and the word got out that the coaches at the college are calling black people N-word, and it made NBC News. What I'm saying is factual.
Wow.
I experienced it.
Crazy.
It took that making the news for the school to fire this coach. Now, I'm not saying the coach is racist, right? Because he was actually my assistant coach when I was a player. So I've known him for a long time.
Yeah.
But for the fact that he didn't see that incident as a big deal, you know? So like Boogie was saying is you gotta have, yes, we wanna have conversation with them. But I don't think some of the people the white kids, you know, our white friends that their parents their kids play with our kids or go out with their kids, they don't see certain things the way we do. That's been my experience.
Yeah.
You know, yes, they asking Bookie, you know, what's on Netflix because they're done with it. They don't see it as a big deal. And this is why I say I don't think racism can end until it gets to our great grandkids generation, where everybody is even more impacted. You can have the conversation, and I'm not saying don't have the conversation. Don't. Like I said, we have a program that is going on our platform that's going to have this conversation. Okay. You can have this conversation today until you turn blue, right? For example, look at the person in the White House. No matter how many police station gets burned, whatever gets looted, you're not going to change that old man. He is who he is. You know, so I just wanted to bring that up real quick and let everybody know.
Okay, thank you so much, Ty, for bringing that. Does anyone else have any comments concerning Bookie's?
Say this. Let me just say before I have to leave, because I have another live.
Fully understand to me.
But you know, everything Taya said is really true. We need to just get involved. I also want to say that people should also learn to share, right? Learn to share the story, learn to share what is happening as well. Use your social media platforms to share, you know, all this happening. The more we keep spreading the word, the more we keep getting noticed, right? So let's endeavor to do that. And I also want to really appreciate like some firm or organization in the United States. They have a lot of diversity and inclusion, you know, events and stuff like that. Those are the things that we can also be part of. And also those events, you know, within all these companies used to actually have different people, not just Black people, you know, even the white people, you know, different people, different ethnicity actually come into play to do all those things. So let's also be part of those kind of advancing Black pathways events, you know, so that we can, you know, be involved and can speak and can also hear what they have to say as well. Those are all those forums that we can also hear them speak, you know. But my main point is to keep sharing. Like me, I use my social media platforms to like share. You know, I have wide audience, right? I have like about 36,000 followers on Instagram and every other platform as well. So I use my platform to just share about, you know, all that is happening. So let's also endeavor to share. And that's my own submission before I, you know, leave. But I will follow it up on YouTube and see, you know, the other part of the conversation.
Thank you so much, Victimi. I really appreciate you joining this conversation. I know you have to run, so we'll excuse you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So salient points, and keep sharing, keep using your platform for the greater good of, you know, the African American community. We love you so much. Thank you, Timmy. So let's move on to our next caller. I think Lola was the next person who called. Lola, are you on? Lola, can you hear us? Lola, can you hear us? Okay, if Lola is not responding, TTO, are you there? TT, are you there? If you're on mute, can you please check? Let me see if they're on mute. Okay. I'm not sure what's going on with either of them. Their audios, it looks like their audio is not connected. All right, so does anyone else have any input to what Buki has said? Do you guys really think that we should, I heard what Ty is saying. I want to see what everyone thinks. Do you really think that we should have a separate conversation with, our Caucasian friends and non-African Americans to hear their thoughts and their processes and what they're, if at all there's anything they're doing or can do from their own? Do you think this is a good idea? Do you think we should have those conversations, or you think it's not even, there's no need, or you don't see what kind of change we can perpetuate from that?
Yeah, I mean, if there is an opportunity to have that conversation, why not? But at the end of the day, for me, I think it has to be a personal responsibility to make sure that we do everything we could to protect our children. That includes all of the things that we've mentioned earlier. Get involved in politics, spend time with your kids, train your kids, engage your kids, have conversation about all these social issues going on in our community. I mean, those are very, 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 very important. But again, like Sister Buki said, if there's an opportunity to have that conversation, why not? It's not going to hurt.
Let's get Jay.
I think Jay's muted. Jay,
you're muted. Daniel, you're muted as well. What do you guys think?
I think it's a fair recommendation. Obviously, you always want to have a dialogue with, not only your peers, but just to get another perspective from their end as well. People tend to say, it's not affecting me until it hits home, right? So it does make sense. It does make sense to have, our other side, in the room to exchange those kind of concerns. Obviously, to listen from our perspective as to why we feel this way and why they feel the way they feel. Another perspective from there as well. People tend to say, it's not affecting me until it hits home.
I think your YouTube is unmuted.
So,
Don't know.
Does make sense.
That might be Lola. That's Lola.
Okay, Lola. Hi, Lola.
Hello.
Can you hear us now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you for dialing in. Talk to us. What do you want to say?
I just want to say my name is Uluwa Damilo Kamalafe. Hi, Auntie Sharon. I just wanted to join in and give my perspective from an 18-year-old, someone who's a bit younger, and I know there's like older adults in here, which is fine.
Dami, pause 1 second. So Dami Lola just recently she's a Townsend University college student. She just started college last fall, correct, Dami?
Yes.
So I'm glad that she joined so that she can give us her own take and her own perspective from a young adult. All right, Dami, go ahead.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Oh, so I just wanted to, before I add, this is good that, Nigerian adults are coming together to have a conversation about Black Lives Matter and what we can do moving forward to change. But before I add in, I know you guys had some anti-looting ideas, and I just wanted to chip in from, like I said, my 18-year-old perspective. Being on Twitter and social media, there's a lot of things that the main media like CNN and Fox News don't want you guys to know. But in terms of the looting started with Target. This was because the Target funded the police. So that anger was already there from the people in the South. Felt like, okay, you guys are giving your money, Target is giving their money and funding the exact police system or the police officers who felt like it was okay to kill these young individuals. And on top of that, when they were going through their protest, they were not allowed to purchase milk and were denied entry into that exact Target. So while they're over here fighting and peacefully protesting, and they're getting mazed and pepper sprayed and stuff like that, that exact Target denied them from buying milk and denied them from even entry.
Wow.
So that's why just like it's another thing good to know to research. And I know it's not you guys' fault or anything, because how would you know if the media does not want you to know? But for me, being on Twitter and Instagram and seeing people, the actual protesters saying, okay, this is why we did this.
Yeah.
It's important to know their perspective too, because I see a lot of people like, oh, looting is unnecessary. Looting is not important. It's not like, what did Target do? Target did exactly that.
Okay.
Imagine protesting and going out there and fighting for your life, going in to get milk, water. They denied them completely. So I think that came from a place of anger, like, okay, I'm not gonna put my money into their pockets. I'm not gonna support a brand who doesn't want denies me of milk. I have money, I'm gonna come here and buy milk and water to protect myself, and you're denying me of that. So that came from a place of anger. And on top of that, I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but there's also undercover cops that come in too, and they started the fires. It's not the African Americans or the Black people that started the fires. It was undercover cops that came in and did that. And they know why they're doing that, because they know, oh, look at Black people being outrageous. They don't know how to act, this and that. But that came from a place of anger. So that's the thing I wanted you guys to understand, which if you didn't know, you didn't know. But like the main media doesn't want people to know this type of stuff. It's like, if you are doing these things, you would be angry too. So in terms of that, I just want to talk about the anti-looting. You go to these people in the South, go there, they're surrounded by white people all the time. They deal with the racism all the time. They don't want to, sit with these companies who feed into the problem. Target is giving money to the police, other companies and stuff like that. Undercover, you wouldn't know that, but like I said, this is things we don't know.
So Danny, I'm glad you mentioned that and you brought that perspective up. And of course, we didn't know that part of the story according to Target, even for you for Target. But I also want to mention that beyond Target, there were a lot of other businesses that were looted. So are we trying to say that, are we trying to say that we understand people express their anger in different ways, and maybe there's a story for every store. But let me give you just a list of a few properties that were damaged so far. And are we saying that all of these people, one way or the other, maybe denied, the protesters one thing or the other, like, we're not trying to justify this, but at the same time, we also understand why people would be angry. If, I'm trying to go into a store and get the basics, maybe for my family, just water or milk or something, I've been denied entry. I'll also tell you this from someone who has lived in Nigeria, and my dad had, my dad's a pharmacist, and he had a pharmacy, that was a pharmacy cum supermarket. It was kind of modeled after CVS. I also remember a lot of times when there were a lot of civil unrest, during the 1993 elections with MKO Abiola and all of that. I can also remember then that, the right thing that they did then was like to close the pharmacy. We were in there, but people were not allowed in there for obvious reasons that, maybe let's not even go into detail. So I'm not in support of Target. I've seen comments, people are saying Target is this, Target is that, I have no affiliation with them, but I want to always look at things from, multiple perspectives as well.
Exactly.
Businesses that were looted include Uncle Hugo's, and then also Holiday Gas Station. There was an extensified, that's a gas station, a Walgreens, Kitchen Windows Uptown, Popeyes, Hooks Fish and Chicken, Metro PCS, phone company, a pawn shop on West Lake, Grand Management on Lindale, Kyle's Market, Pearl Vision, that's glasses, Galactic Pizza, Marathon Lindale, Williams. There's a whole lot of that. Look, a whole lot of them that were affected here. So are we trying to say that each and every one of these businesses, did something to what Target did in order to warrant this?
I think what happened was, I understand what you're saying. Like, not every store in that area, but I think what happened is
we can't really justify that. And I'll say this: I was watching CNN yesterday night, and the mayor, the Atlanta mayor, I can't remember what her name is, was also, saying that this is not how Martin Luther King Jr. would have wanted us to react. This is not the way that he would have wanted us to pass the message along. It is not by looting. She was telling, because they were looting also in Atlanta, and she was telling them to go back home. And this is not the way for us to solve this problem. You want to solve this problem, but you want to affect trade, you have to do this peacefully. And then also make sure that when you're voting, I think they have elections in June, and they also have elections, of course, the national elections in November. Go out and vote for a change. That's the way that's the most effectual way that we can, have change. But she mentioned they need to go back home because the way that we were looted, the stores were being looted, that was not the way. And we were giving people more of a reason to say things about us as a people. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
But I appreciate you bringing that in here and mentioning that. But I would, and I'm very curious if all those other businesses as well, like, you know, if there was a specific reason why they were targeted, you know, I would like to know that. Nonetheless,
but Sharon, sorry, right, not to interrupt you. I think one thing that Lola said that really key for me, and I think I mentioned it earlier, that we posted about the undercover police officer that was actually breaking into stores like the AutoZone and some other stores just to make people look bad for protesting.
Exactly.
Like,
it's not a lot of
that part of it.
It's not all. It's not all us. Yes, totally agree. It's not all.
I think with the Target thing and the other stores, I think a lot of people joined in that weren't even a part of the protest too. Like, oh, people are looting, people are stealing. Let me come in and join. I don't even know what's going on, but I want to steal too, which takes away kind of from the movement, like you said. A lot of people joined in, and yeah, it's not the right thing sometimes to fight peacefulness, to be peaceful, and sometimes you don't need to be, like I said, you said, to be angry. You don't need to be aggressive. Like you said, Martin Luther King would have won this, but I like you have to come from the perspective of the people from the South too. I think that was their initial intention. And then a whole bunch of, like you said, the cops came in, other people who are not even with the movement started looting other stores, Metro PCS, gas, this and that have nothing to do with the initial movement. But like you said, when people see chaos, a lot of people like to join in. But like you said, unfortunately, like you don't even understand.
Probably did not even know what was happening with Target.
Exactly.
They just had got looted, so let's jump in and do the same thing. You know what I mean? They're just better, effective ways of getting a message across that does not involve destroying businesses. And guess what? The businesses are in our community and could very well be owned by Black people. Imagine if I, a Black owner, have one of these stores. Where am I going to start from? Add that to the fact that these businesses have been shut down because of COVID. So you're already facing a lot of challenges, and then you're
definitely.
You know, come and loot your own store. Like, then you're divided. You're very angry about what's happening. You understand how you feel, but at the same time, you're also going to experience a tremendous loss financially. So that's what we're trying to say. That looting is not the answer, and we unfortunately have people who are not. I was watching the news yesterday, and I think the CNN camera was able to count 5 people who were non-Blacks who were walking into a store. I can't remember the name of the store, and you know, he was pointing the news man or whatever was saying, you know, I count, that's 1 right there, that's 2 right there, that's 3. You know, he was counting them. 5, just looking right now. And you know, and so they are riding off of our backs.
Exactly. Joining into movement they don't even understand.
We have to be really careful about that. But thank you so much for dialing in, Dami. This conversation has been going on for way too long, guys. We're 2 hours in, and we have people who are still calling in. So I'm only going to take the one other person who was here before, and I think that was so there was, okay, Lola's gone. So I think, all right, so we have a number. The other person who was here was gone. So let's just take this one person who's here and let's call it a day so that we can wrap this up. I know everybody got to go. So please just give us 10 more minutes and we're going to wrap this up, guys. 10 more minutes. I agree. Please, 10 more minutes. This video is going to be posted on YouTube. It's going to be on my channel as you're watching now. So we can go back and replay. And we will have a part 2 of this discussion. And this time around, we're going to do it with the mothers. So stay tuned for that. So our other caller, the 202 number, can you hear us?
Okay, yes, I just want to say hello. Oh, sure. Okay.
Okay, our 202 number. We can hear you.
Yeah, I was just calling in to address the statement that racism cannot be ended.
Can we know who is?
I do believe.
What's your name, sir?
This is Yemi.
Okay. Hi, Yemi. Go ahead.
Hi. So this is my own perspective, right? We need to understand that racism is a political tool. And we need to go all the way back to slavery and understand, you know, how they played it to the economic advantage. Because we have social media today, right, that has exposed all these things to the limelight, but the play is still there. You go into a Big Four company and you work within the Big Four company. If you look at the top, right, you'll see, you know, that the majority of the people leading those businesses are of the same color. There's a reason behind that. We need to understand what is at play. and we need to understand how to tackle this situation. I believe rioting, right? If we're talking about looting, I don't think looting is the right way to go, but I don't think if they refuse to riot, the situation would be brought to the limelight. The rioting helps, everyone to see that this is a problem that needs to be addressed. When Obama was there, right, he was just one single man there, but how much was he able to do? So this is a game of number. When we're talking about racism being a tool, right, of power, we need to understand that it's a game of number. I've seen many Africans, saying derogatory statements against African Americans, but we really need to understand that we're in it together. Until we understand that it doesn't matter where you come from, right? This affects you. It might not affect you as an individual, but you are procreating here. Now, the reason why if you look at this situation 10 years ago, you will see Africans, saying, African Americans are lazy. But they did what they had to do to pave the way for you to even be able to come here and have a new life. The difference between you and African Americans is because their credits, right, was, subjected under pressure as a child. But you came in and started as an adult, starting your own new credit line. So you had an opportunity. You were well informed. You know what to do. That's the only difference. I remember one time I was trying to buy a property in Atlanta, Georgia. I drove up to that property. And as soon as I drove up to the property, someone came from across the road saying, "We do not want one of your kinds here." Wow. Would you believe that this guy came out of his house with a digger and smashed the back of my glass? Wow. Of my car? And when the police came, the very first question, I was so calm because I thought the guy had mental health issues. But when the police came around, the first thing the police officer asked me was what I did to upset this guy.
Can you imagine?
That was when I got upset. Wow. What if I was the one that had, that weapon in hand and break a white man's car? The situation would not have been the same. So we really need to understand the root cause of this whole play. Is the government, playing a role in this, right? Look at the schools within the Black neighborhood, and they're both funded under the same county's, funding. The school in a Black neighborhood is not properly funded, but the school in a white neighborhood looks like Harvard or Stanford on the other side of the road. I've lived in different states, and it's the same thing everywhere. But how do we tackle the situation? What exactly is our role? What role do we need to play to be able to change these narratives? And that's the same narrative that is being extended all the way to Africa. They would enrich one person and turn Black people against themselves so that they can keep, mining the resources out there. Until we understand that this is a game of power and survival, right? We will not be able to know how to play it right. Wow. If we do not understand that, power would not be power without the resources, we will not know how to play this game right. We can educate our children all we want. We can, protest all we want, but we have to understand the field to which we're playing. Even if we put someone in power to go run for mayor, and the Black people do not, rally around to protect their own personal interest, it will still be the same thing. Chinese people came in here, they rally around themselves, they're protecting their own interest, they have Chinatowns. But if one Black person decides to have a African town, it's Black people that they would use to, tear it down. We have to understand the power of unity. We have to understand the game which we're playing, and we have to understand how to play the game. I'll let the conversation continue, but I just wanted to chip that in. allow yourself to get pushed away from the real thing that is playing here, right? And the media would always promote the political agendas. Thank God for social media. Do you think this thing is just happening right now? It's been happening. The only thing that blew it, that made it, so much to the point where everyone is now aware is social media. And that's the reason why they're trying to control social media today. It is now a global thing. America does well by, handling and, putting forward their narratives. Right now, they don't have good control over the narratives because virtually everyone is now a news reporter. We're now saturated with so much information. Yeah. Now that we know that this affects every one of us, what are we going to do about it? That's all I got to say.
Thank you so much for calling in, Yemi. That was a great perspective. Anybody want to respond to that?
I just want to say he's right to a point. I think we've all touched about it. I know I've mentioned it that I don't think we can end racism right now. It's almost impossible, but we have to do what we can do as far as protecting ourselves and our family and educating ourselves and our family. A lot of these things out of hand. But one thing that he mentioned that I don't want us to forget, he said that social media is a powerful tool. And as you can see, the man in the White House is trying to control that now because nobody can really control what you put on social media. So it's another way he's trying to use executive order to control what is on social media. Yeah. So again, there's election coming up in November. If you really, really want to help. Yes. This is your time. I know we all count as one vote, but a lot of us can change a lot of things.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Thank you, Ty. Danielle and KJ, do you guys have any last comments?
Yeah, we've talked about a lot of things here, and I think at the end of the day, it comes from personal responsibility. Number one is doing what we have to do as individuals to protect ourselves and our family, like Ty said. And the second thing that I think, for one, that we could use as a tool is our vote. The more we vote at every election, the better for us as a Black community.
Great, thank you so much. Jay, Daniel?
I totally concur with what I and Yinka said. For us to make change, we have to execute change from the grassroots, from our county. It could even be from our neighborhood, so you want that change, you want your voice to be heard, you have to get involved.
Yeah, and I'll echo that as well. It's all been said. We just have to obviously get the awareness out. We really have to take charge of this narrative. It's something we have to take control over. We can't be silent about the situation. We just have to keep people aware and keep educating ourselves on it.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. So, guys, we are right at the end. We are 2 hours and 18 minutes into this discussion. I feel like we could be here all day having this conversation, and it would go on and on. It's not a one-day conversation, but I'm glad that we got started on the right foot. So thank you all for joining. I want to mention a couple of things. I saw a comment in there from someone that said that we are not the majority, that is the Black folks, and even if we vote, we can't make a change in every city. We need allies. I disagree with that. I don't want people, having that thought process that even if we vote, we're not going to make a change. We can't do that. If we go with that narrative, then nobody's going to vote, and we definitely will not get any closer to voting. The problem is people are not even registering in the first place. They're going by the numbers of registered Black voters. And that's the problem. A lot of Black people are not registering to vote because, again, I couldn't be bothered. I can't make any change. But you'd be surprised. So we need those numbers in order to change things at the polls. So make sure that you're having that conversation with all of your neighbors, all of your friends, engage with your communities. You know, make sure that you are a voice on social media, encourage people to go out and register to vote. If you're not registered to vote, come November, and you decide the day before election that you're gonna vote, that's not, it doesn't work that way. You can't just walk into a polling center, you know, and just go and vote like that. There are steps to this thing. So you have to make sure that you are voting. We're starting from the grassroots all the way to the presidency. Make sure that we are electing the right people who understand us, who know us, who not necessarily, you know, not who are fair. You know, it's not necessarily about being pro-Black or being pro-white, but people who are just fair in general. So let's make sure that we're using our voices for the right thing. And lastly, someone just sent me on Bookie just sent me on WhatsApp now that Target has released a statement, and you know, I'm saying this again because of the fact that we've mentioned them a couple of times concerning this looting. And Target says that as a team, we have vowed to face pain with purpose. And just, you know, the more narrative here says we are a community in pain. That pain is not unique to the Twin Cities. It extends across America. And as a team, we've vowed to face pain with purpose. So, and there's more information on their Instagram page, and if you want to hear what their CEO, Brian Cornell, has to say about what has been going on. So thank you guys again for joining. The second part of this discussion will be with the mothers. I'm going to reach out to some of our very passionate moms and bring them in. Let's hear what the women have to say from the women's perspective. And thank you guys. Ty, I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. You've been so instrumental and, you know, full of wisdom. Thank you so much for what you've done for the community and for us. And hopefully we can bring you on more segments here. And you guys, ABL Live, you know, Afrobeats Live, you have to download the app. They're on Facebook as well. Make sure that you're listening. It's down right now, but it's going to be back up very shortly. But they also have live segments. So make sure that you're following them on Facebook so that you're connected with everything they're discussing. And they, you know, Afrobeat Live usually has like a very great pool of people who are there, you know, from Carl to CY, you know, and Jetty, everybody over there having conversations about different topics. So please follow them. And Yinka Davids as well is on Facebook. I know his account is personal and everything, but again, he's also a very instrumental person, full of wisdom, full of wealth of knowledge that you should also be following and also connect to as well. Like I said, he's a teacher in Sunday school in church as well. So that tells you that he's very passionate about children. And I like to talk to him and run one-offs with him when I'm talking about my son. So, and also Jay, thank you very much. I know this is not your theme, but I dragged you out here. So thank you for giving us that perspective on, you know, how you're handling things, even though you're on the road most of the time. It's not an excuse these days. And Daniel, God bless you. Thank you so much. My first time ever seeing you, but you did awesome. Thank you so much for contributing. Let's continue to use our platforms to affect the change that we can at the level that we can. Thank you guys for joining. You guys have been so awesome watching on YouTube. This video will be on YouTube forever. So you can go back and replay this and make sure that you're hearing all of the conversation and the perspective. And very special final shout out to Haraba Group Inc., www.harabagroup.com. They are sponsors of this live discussion. Thank you guys so much, the team behind Haraba Group. Thank you guys. We love you and we are out.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.